Welcome to the Lagoon City Parks and Waterways Commission on Thursday, March 13th, 9:33. We'll start the opening our meeting with the tape recording.
Today's meeting is being streamed live on the Township of Ramara YouTube channel. Be advised that by attending a public meeting of the Commission, you are consenting to your image, voice, and comments being recorded and will form a part of the public record. The Chair, CAO, or Secretary have the discretion and authority at any time to direct the termination or interruption of live streaming in exceptional circumstances where the content of the debate is considered inappropriate to be published. Attendees are advised that they may be subject to legal action if their actions result in unacceptable behavior or comments.
Thank you, Clerk. Start off with number 2, adoption of agenda and/or agenda additions. Recommendations that the Lagoon City Parks and Waterways Commission agenda dated March 13, 2025 be adopted as presented. Somebody from the floor, please. Commissioner Mason, second by Councillor Bell. Anything to be discussed? I don't see any hands. All in favor? The next one is adoption of minutes. Minutes of the meeting held on February 18th, 2025. The recommendations that Lagoon City Parks and Waterways Commission minutes dated February 18th, 2025 be adopted as presented. Put on the floor. Commissioner Shearsmith, second by Commissioner Mason. Any discussion? No discussion. All in favor? That's passed. Minutes of the meeting held on March 3rd of 2025. Recommendation that the Lagoon City Parks and Waterways Commission minutes dated March 3rd, 2025 be adopted as presented. So on the floor. Deputy Mayor Bell, second by Councillor Bell. Any discussion? Don't see anything. All in favor? That's passed. Does anybody have any disclosure of pecuniary interest? Okay. Open forum regarding agenda items only. Do we have anybody, Clerk?
Nothing, Commissioner.
Thank you very much. Verse 6, we have presentations receiving of petitions and deputations, which is great. We have somebody doing a deputation today. I want here. We will receive this. Okay, so I don't have to put it on the floor then, do I?
Pardon me?
Do I put this on the floor or just wait till the end?
You can wait to the end, Commissioner Johnson.
So as Robert Parker, oh, I see him down here at the bottom. Hello, Mr. Parker. You can turn your video on and your sound.
Hello, everyone. Good morning.
Good morning, Bobby.
How are you?
Greg.
Welcome to Parks and Waterways. I've never met. I'm Cal Johnson.
Yeah, a couple familiar faces.
Okay. Well, everybody's smiling, so I now know who you know, right?
That's right.
You can start anytime you'd like.
Okay, great. Well, appreciate the time and thank you everyone for joining and providing me the audience today. Start with an introduction. So Robert or Bobby Parker, I represent and work with the ownership group of the marina as well as some other lands in and around the Ramara Township Brecon area, known as Timber Creek. They have been involved obviously in the area for quite some time. And I have now been involved for which seems like 10 years, but I think it's only been about a year since, but that's how it goes. But and so I've been helping with sort of managing some of the properties, managing some of the sites that they have in conjunction with our property manager, Lairlin. And so the main site, which I think is probably of interest to everyone on here, being the marina, because I know that there's people that have grown up with it. There's residents here that either utilize it or like it as an amenity. And so today, I would like to sort of speak to the group, understand more about the commission, the roles and responsibilities, but also effectively present the reality of the situation that faces not only our group, but I think the residents as a whole, as well as those who are either the leaseholders, because I know there's a few of those that are joining today, at the marina. So with that said, I can pause there if anyone has any questions or comments, or I can continue on.
I don't see any questions. So during your deputation, would you want us to ask us questions as you're going or wait till the end?
I'm open to a free flow conversation, so I can pause at certain points. I mean, in truth, I'll share my screen. It's going to be a fairly short presentation from my end, so allow me to jump into it, and then I can again pass the microphone back to the group and anyone on here that wants to have some questions. So give me a second here. I'm used to Teams, not Zoom, so give me 1 second here to make sure I share the right screen. Can everyone see the tax bill? It's what should be presenting. Try to zoom it in. Is that on the screen?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. Okay, great. So the real point to get at on today's meeting and why I'm presenting before the commission here is, as we've been managing this, and I'm starting to really understand and dive into what the financial reality is of owning and running and operating this marina. The largest expense, and I apologize, I'll be flipping back and forth, but can you also see the financials right now? Is that now what's up on the screen?
Yes.
Yes. Okay. The largest expense for us on this site is $312,000 and $312,333 tax bill. Which again, flipping back to the tax bill, that represents this total amount due down here. Now, what makes up that $312,000 is this $220 or $220,523.44 levy, which is issued by the commission and is administered through the township's tax department. And why I raise that is twofold. One, it effectively creates almost an inability for anyone, let alone ourselves, to ever make any money on this, let alone break even. And I will flip back to the marina financials and show you why. I mean, aside from, trying to increase the revenues, let's call it, the reality is the 312 is the largest expense right now. We're currently losing around $363,000 a year by operating this marina, and that's been ongoing for quite some time. As the largest expense, and 220,000 of this largest expense, which that in itself would be the largest expense that we incur at the operation of the marina. Like I said, makes it impossible for us to actually end up, not only making any kind of money off this to make it worthwhile for us to stay in it, but also for any future owner to come in and do the same, as well as for any future owner to come in and put real good capital expenditures into the property to fix it up to the level that we all want it to be. When you're effectively sort of just having to feed the meter, as I like to call it, to keep this thing operating, and the largest part of that feeding the meter is the commission's levy, there's not a whole lot of money left over for us to sort of spend on upgrading it or doing any new and exciting projects at the marina. We're effectively scraping by in that sense. So what I'm presenting here today is the reality of the situation, which is this thing is losing money every year, to the extent that we can discuss further, and I don't expect a resolution on this call, but to find some sort of relief from this levy that makes up the municipal property taxes. I would request that from the commission to look into that, because otherwise the reality is that long term we would not be continuing to fund and subsidize the marina, which is in effect what's happening. It just doesn't make financial sense. And I know that this marina is a large component of what makes Lagoon City, and what makes Brecken, and what draws people to come and people to stay. And we are committed to, being good shepherds of this for the time being. But again, we're also looking to the city, the township, the commission to also help us to ensure that this amenity stays. And this is not just me sort of hat in hand. I can express that, as everyone knows on this call, we have had the property listed since September of last year. We have had 4 offers, agreed offers. We have had 4 decline to waive their conditions. Once they've realized what this property tax entails, they've all come back with the same comment saying there's no viable way to make this marina work. That's even with them assuming, a capital upgrade program and increasing the occupancy and over time, increasing the fees that they're renting at the slips for. So that is what I'm presenting today. That is the current reality. And I'm happy to pause there and allow the group to ask any questions or, ask for any points of clarification.
Can you take care of the screen? I need to see the screen.
I haven't stopped sharing. Is it still up there? Is it not up
Still-
there?
Yeah, you're still sharing.
Yeah. Do you want me to stop sharing?
You have to stop sharing so I can see the commission.
Yeah, give me 1 second here. Like I said, Zoom is not my expertise here. Okay.
Okay, let me just get going here. I gotta just find them again. There we go. Okay, do I see? Let's do this. Does anybody have any questions? The only, I just had 1 or 2 here. How many slips do you have?
Currently there are 277 slips, 77 of which, I believe actually 76 because 1 came back, are what we call the condominium slips, meaning they were purchased by individuals under the 99-year lease from the previous, now bankrupt owner, Indicon.
So you have a total of 277 slips in the marina?
277 slips. I believe the levy is based on around $880 a slip right now. Is what makes up that 220,000 and change figure.
Okay.
And so, yeah, 77. So I know a few of them are probably on here, but as it works, that levy also gets paid. To my understanding, and Sherry, I know you were mentioning this to me when we had our original chat. Are paid not only by the slip owners, but also by the other residences in Lagoon City. So I appreciate that as well, that we're not the only ones that have to pay this.
Right. Okay. And you've seen our budget, like you've watched our budget where we spend our money?
I briefly looked at it. I haven't been privy to it, or it hasn't been sent to me, to be honest, which is interesting, seeing as how we pay the lion's share of the levy.
It's
But-
public knowledge if you need
Okay,
to.
so I will get the link from you and look at that. And I understand where some of the money goes as well. And I appreciate that there's certain things that need to be done.
Does anybody,
Such as I might gather there was 2 pedestrian bridges that had to be refurbished for a cost of $550,000 recently.
yeah, a little more than that, but yeah. Well, quite a bit more than that.
I might next time, let me know. I might quit my job and I'll
They're expensive, so hopefully we don't deal with them again.
yeah.
I see, got you this time, Deputy Mayor has got a question, and you're muted.
Thank you. Through the chair, I guess my question is, what is your ask? I mean, you've asked us to reconsider, but is there a specific number or a certain reduction you're looking at?
Well, I mean, it's a good question, Keith. And I appreciate the question. Ultimately, we're asking for any help. If you're asking whether it's my wish list, obviously it would be a complete reduction. But if that's not in the cards, then maybe there's some other middle ground between what's currently being charged and no charge to allow us to actually make a go of running this marina. Whether that's being linked to the actual occupancy, so we're not paying the per slip commission fee on slips that aren't currently being rented or owned. I'm open to suggestions. I think this first meeting was to sort of present the issue to the group, and because it is a dire issue. So that would be the ask would be is if we could get rid of it altogether. But you know, I can appreciate that there's other factors at play. So,
Can I have a follow-up?
Yeah, sure. We'll do a follow-up, then Commissioner Shoesmith will be next.
Thank you. I guess my follow-up would be, when was the last time the property was appraised? My concern is if we have an appraisal, it's going to increase your levies, not necessarily decrease them. And I'm just wondering what the formula is. We might need a staff report so we understand that better.
sorry, it was a little muffled, Keith, but I'll try to repeat your question just so I make sure I understand it. So you're asking what time or when was the last appraisal or assessment of the value of the property, which predicates what the actual tax is?
Correct.
My understanding of this, there was a tax appeal done on this property, I think, because MPAC's they haven't done their 2025 assessment, so I think the last one was 2016. And at that time, the property was assessed, I believe, and don't quote me on this, around 6.6 million, which, you know, if you can go onto Realtor and see that it's listed for far less than that, and I can assure you that the offers that we're receiving are far less than that. So the typical course is that your assessed value is usually less than what the market value is, and in this case, it's actually the inverse, and that the assessed value is much higher than what we're getting on the market. And then again, those people on the market are still are backing out of deals when they see what the reality is with respect to this cost.
Okay, thank you. We may need a staff report to understand, that part of it before we can make a final decision. But that's all I have for now. Thank you.
No, I appreciate that, and thank you for the question. I'm happy to continue the conversation as well with whoever we need to. Again, I just wanted the first sort of venue to kind of present the issue, sort of plead my case, and then we can go further meetings after this as well. I expected that to be the case, so no problem. I'll make myself available.
Yeah, I'm just wondering, what is the marina doing, if anything, to change their situation? I mean, there's a lot of vacant slips there. Are they progressively advertising or trying to draw some customers in? I know there's been some real serious problems with some marinas out on Lake Simcoe, and they're going to be looking for slips too. I mean, how are they drawing people in to increase revenue? Is there anything?
Yeah, Greg, I mean, that's a fair question and a good question. Ultimately, as it stands, we obviously have the operator in there. They're helping us with that, but we go to the boat shows, the International Boat Show. We go to the Toronto Boat Show to try to advertise Lagoon City as a destination and as an alternative destination to the other marinas that are on Lake Simcoe. So we provide promotional offers as well. But you can only sell so much. Ultimately, market is going to dictate the reality. And when we go into a poor economic climate, fortunately, the first thing that people get rid of is the last thing they get rid of is where they live in their house, right? The essentials. But what they get rid of first is probably the boat or the summer place or whatever the case may be, sort of the non-essentials. So it's been tough to try to get people in. And it's also, and I will be the first to admit, I'm not sort of blaming anyone for this, but it also will take capital investment into the marina to also help to draw people, and they need to come and see that obviously things are progressing there, things are being invested there, and I understand that. But it's hard to justify putting hundreds of thousands of dollars into a marina that loses hundreds of thousands of dollars and has for the last 3-4 years. And so and I'm not just saying that from our standpoint. This is again the feedback from the 4 different buyers who decided to walk away. So that's the issue and the challenge that we're really facing right now, is that a market that's against you and
So it's really a twofold issue. I mean,
it really is.
Victims of the market, or the
victims of the market, and I hate to say it, but very high municipal costs that they're really eating into the bottom line.
Yeah, I haven't seen any advertising or marketing on behalf of the marina, and I do go to the boat shows and I do keep an eye on that sort of thing. And it has been a sliding sort of scale in terms of occupancy there. It's something that's happened over a period of years. So, and the decay is something that's that increases over the years too. So,
well, it's there. I can send the promotional material over, and I assure you, we're one of the fortunate ones due to the management where we didn't have any of our piers collapse, where we had 2 other marinas that actually had piers collapse. So when and again, I come back to when you're losing money year after year, what money you do have to put in there is going to safety first, not to fancy marketing. It's to make sure that people don't get injured when they go on our site. Boats don't get damaged if they're stored on our site. So we're going and making sure that the actual security is done as far as the structures. And we weathered this, winter better than 3 other marinas who had major collapses of their piers.
So
So
where would any kind of a levy reduction go into? Would it be going into salaries? Would it be going into revamping the marina? Like, where do you plan on?
well, it wouldn't be
directing
going into
funds?
salaries. Salaries are from the maintenance staff really. But it would be to that. It'd be getting it to the point where both for marketing to increase occupancy so that we're less dependent on any sort of subsidies moving forward. If I would call it that, I mean, I would prefer a reduction wholesale, but so it'd be going into marketing, and to capital upgrades, because I think those are the 2 things that are going to increase the occupancy and therefore the revenue so that it becomes self-sufficient.
So are you looking for something permanent or just something deferred for a short
Well,
period of
I
time?
think I'm looking for something permanent, and I'm not going to mince words on that. I'll appreciate that there's certain things that need to be done in and around Lagoon City, and so this is a revenue source for the commission and for the town. So what that would look like, but I'm just again relaying the feedback that I have received from the 4 buyers who decided to walk, saying, and we tried to even structure deals where we would cover the property tax for them for the first 3 years, and they said that's all well and good, but even after year 3. I'm still stuck with this property tax that makes it a non-viable operating entity. So yes, I would be looking for something permanent, which again would allow us to then put the necessary investment or a JV partner with a real operator. For example, Maple Leaf Marinas, we were in deep discussions with them. Ultimately, they backed out for the very reasons I'm expressing to you right now. Bringing someone like that would put a real flag on the marina. Have a bona fide operator with the infrastructure to draw in more people. That's who you want, but again, they're not going to be able to do that if we don't have some sort of concession, and that's the direct feedback from them.
Mhm.
I believe Keith has a question.
Commissioner, did you have a question first? I thought I saw Commissioner Bell. Yeah, okay.
Thank you. Yes, I did. Thank you,
Oh,
Chair.
sorry.
No, that's okay, Bobby. Good to see you.
I just saw the emoji on his screen, so that's not
No,
for
that's
me to
okay.
direct it. Go ahead.
Thank you. It's good to see you. And Greg actually asked some of my questions. The one thing I did want to comment on is the levy is not dependent on the value of the property. The levy is that's not the calculation. So when we're talking property valuation or property tax assessment or that kind of thing, that would be a matter for the Township's Council. So that would be a separate matter. But as far as the levy, that's not applicable to that calculation. So I did want to point that out because I think there's potentially 2 different conversations that would be had, right? So at the commission level, the levy is specifically for, as you noted, the footbridges, the beaches, the waterways care, and it really is. We need X operating dollars and capital, although there's few capital investments this year, but we need X dollars to operate, and that amount gets divided up. And as you know, there's the per slip or the per, for us, it's a per property on an individually held property. So it just is what it is. There's a total, and then it has to be divided. So I wanted to point that out because it's not tied to property value. So I know we talked a little bit about it, but I just thought it was worth also mentioning. Thank you.
Fair enough.
It's just a lot of my questions were sort of
sorry,
answered.
you want to respond to that?
Did I want to respond? No, I said fair enough, and thank you and I appreciate that the property taxes are based on the assessed value from MPAC, and that the levy is based on, from what I understand, is a slip value, per slip value, and that the funds are used to, fund the footbridges and the maintenance of the beaches and all that kind of stuff in and around Lagoon City. So I appreciate that and understand. Thank you.
Deputy Mayor Bell.
Yeah, great, thanks. I was just going to follow up with just maybe what is your plan for renovations? I mean, you've been trying to sell it for a few years. You've had several people interested. It'd be hard for the commission to agree to lower it just to give you an advantage to sell the actual marina to unload it. So I'd like to have some kind of a plan as to what it is you're looking at investing to make the improvements.
Hey Keith, fair question and point, and the initial investments would be, and we are looking at doing that also from current funds that we have, but would be to upgrade the infrastructure as far as again securing the other slip covers. So we have an engineer going through that's going to be providing a report because again, my first concern is safety, not only for the users but also for their property being the boats. Then the second would be bucket of capital improvements would be to actually increase the usability, we'll call it for lack of a better word. So I'm not committing to anything on this call, but I know that there's been a lot of calls for getting the pool fixed up, and so we're looking at that as an option as well. And then other general upgrades in and around it just to sort of again increase usability, create more amenities for the marina. Now so that's to answer your first question. And we would have a capital plan put together for that. And once it's finalized, happy to share that if that's, required in order for us to further this conversation, potential solution. The second question was, or point, I should say, was, well, why would we give a reduction of the levy for you to then just go on and sell it? And so I just want to make it clear to the group here. So any sale that we did, even at the current list price, would ultimately result in a capital loss or a write down for the group. So just to be abundantly clear, we're not making any money off of any sale from this. Secondly, any sale to a third party, as I mentioned, the 4 parties that walked away was because of this property tax issue. They can come in, they can put their capital plan in, they can figure out how to properly market this, get the occupancy up. But ultimately the costs are the costs, especially when it comes to realty tax, that doesn't change, that's fixed. So even if we were to sell it and you reduce the fees, you'd be doing it for the new owners coming in who are actually then going to be in a better position to put money back into this marina. So it's not just, you wouldn't be doing this just so I can make a quick buck, because that wouldn't be the case. You'd be doing it to make this marketable to a bona fide operator who can come in and now has the ability to fund their own upgrades and renovations to really make this marina what it should be. So I hope that answers your question.
Commissioner Shoesmith. You're
I would have to assume you've already had the property assessed or evaluated by an engineering team or firm. And what kind of recommendations have they come up with there? Can you disclose that?
At this point, Greg, we actually have the proposals and they're signed, and so they're waiting for the snow to melt in order to go out there and actually run their assessment on the property, which would include the main building and any freestanding structures like the bathroom structures and the slip covers. So
Right.
no, we haven't received the report back.
Okay, so what's the alternative then in the big picture if this doesn't fly in terms of reduction?
Well, I mean, the doomsday alternative is ultimately we have to walk away, and I don't think anyone wants that. And ultimately, the municipality would end up taking it over, I assume, based on that process. But that's, I don't think, what anyone wants. I think by the fact that we've funded effectively the operations to keep this up and going for the last 5 years, based on these numbers, shows that we have been committed, because we've been sort of taking losses every year to ensure the marina is there and available for everyone to use. But that would be effective. I mean, listen, there comes a point where we're not a charitable organization. We're not a municipality, right? You have to effectively either make money or cut your losses. And so I think you can kind of figure out what that would mean for long term if we can't get some sort of relief on this.
Sure. So what type of time frame are you looking at? Or do you have anything to sort of?
We don't have a time frame, and I'm not one to come here and say if we don't get a reduction by X date, then we're gone. Like, that's not the way that I operate. That's not the way that our company operates. I'm here just to present the information to the group here, who are the decision makers, to say that and to show how much money we've actually put into this thing, even if you don't see it on the on the face of it. The fact that we've been covering the losses of this in a down market. To keep it operating year after year and opening year after year, I think should show some good faith and will on our part to the group here. And
anyone can see that I'm sure it's in a struggle. I mean, that goes without saying.
Yeah, but it's also, you know, it's if like if we didn't pay this, then you wouldn't the levy wouldn't get its money, the municipality wouldn't get its tax revenue, and the bridges wouldn't get built, and the like none of the stuff would be done. We as good, citizens and stewards of this have been happy to pay that at a loss every year in order to ensure that this continues to operate and things can get done, both from the commission standpoint and from our standpoint. So that's why that's why we're here today talking, is to say, listen, this can only go on for so long. Like our 10-year plan isn't to continue to lose $350,000 a year, and assumably more, as the levy goes up. Because my understanding is the levy was around $250 per slip in 2014. It's now at 880. Like, yeah, on that pace, like these losses will continue to go up exponentially. And there's going to come a point where we say, no, like we can't do it anymore.
I'm gonna just cut it there. So I think what we need to do is get a staff report, because there's a lot of things we could debate back and forth here, and why the levy went up and what we got all from it, and a lot of it made sense. So what I'd like to do is we've gone past, I guess, our 10 minutes now. To end this now and put a motion forward that we get a staff report on this. Would that be something, Deputy Mayor? You're Mike.
You're chairing, Cal. So I'd be happy to move that motion to have a staff report, so we understand the levies and how we got here from 2014.
Yeah, because there's a lot more questions that we could ask, but we really need to get a staff report, because we're just guessing, and we don't want to put you under the spotlight right now.
That's okay.
So Deputy Mayor has put forward that motion. I have a second from.
No, I'm not seconding.
What?
I have a comment.
Oh, sorry.
No, that's okay.
We can put this on the floor and then you can make a comment, but.
Okay, you can put it on the floor.
Yeah, so can I get a second for that, please? Commissioner Mason, open for discussion. Councilor Bell?
Yeah, thank you. I'm not sure. I would just want to get a little bit more clarity on what a staff report is typically to give the commission information. And we already know what our budget looks like and where our expenditures have been over the last 10 years. We can review our budgets and see that. So I'm not sure what, I would just like to know what we're asking for. I mean, it's Bobby who's looking for information, not the commission, actually. So if we're structuring a staff report, I guess I'd want to know what is in the staff report, and maybe Bobby would be able to tell us what he's looking for from us, versus because we already know we've had access to this information the whole time. So it may just actually not be a staff report. It's maybe more just a conversation around what would be helpful, so that Bobby knows what has occurred over the last 10 years. Where can he find the documents, where can he find the budgets, and that sort of thing, because we know what equipment we purchased, we know what we invested into clean flow and so on. So I think I'm not sure that it's the staff report we're looking for.
Well, I know I'm asking for a staff report just to have way more questions. I want to talk to staff, not so much to Bobby, such as how much money we spent dredging to get these boats out there, sort of money we put in around there. Because really what we're asking now is the people of Lagoon City, the 880 households, to ante up the money. And I wonder whether or not it should be going back to even council to take a look, because what advantages they get. And they've got, $97,000 into it. So these are the things that I staff report to talk about, but not in deputation.
Can I just follow up?
Sure.
Thank you, Cal. So I guess what I'm saying, sorry, I'm just a follow up.
Okay.
Am I following up, or sorry, can I do my follow up?
Yeah, you go first, then Deputy Mayor.
Thank you, because I think we're asking for two different things, right? That's what I'm trying to clarify. We might want a staff report with the information you're looking for. But Bobby might be looking for different information. So that's what I'm trying to say. The two things wouldn't be the same thing. The staff report would be for us, but then Bobby might be looking for something else. And then for us, for a staff report, we don't need to keep Bobby here. He can go and get back to doing business, right? And we can have a discussion about what we want in our own staff report, after the fact. So I'm just saying we should maybe release him. And then just if he has any asks as far as information, that's a separate thing from us asking for a staff report. That's all, just so that he can go and just respect his time. That's all.
Well, Deputy Mayor, what did you have to say?
No, I was just going to echo what you said, Cal. I don't feel comfortable making a decision on reducing any levies until we have a staff report and understand all the intricate pieces. That there's a lot of pieces here. It isn't as simple as looking at budgets and costs over the past 4 or 10 years. I think we need a full, detailed staff report, and I think it's actually good that Mr. Parker is still on the line, just in case there is something he wants to add beyond what we're actually asking for, and then he can let us know.
Right, because in the staff report, we would see the advantages or disadvantages of having a marina there and whether or not it's worth the cost. That's what I'm looking at.
Certainly. I mean, I will say this is your territory, and I leave it to how you want to run it. I appreciate Sherry's comments, Keith, and yourselves, Cal. If you want to create the staff report, that's fine. Maybe you can send me the staff report. I review it. If I have any further questions, I can follow up with it. But ultimately, from my standpoint, like Sherry's correct. I mean, the information that you want to see probably isn't the same that I want to see, and ultimately, I'm just here to try to, see if there's some help in that regard. And so the process that you have to take in order to sort of come to the next conversation, I'll leave to you. And if that's a staff report, then by all means, I'll be ready, willing, and able to engage further when the time comes.
Exactly. This is normally what we do. Is we always get the staff report, which hopefully we will get it within we can talk in the next meeting.
Yeah, and I'll just finish this. I appreciate it's not to the matter of, as Keith mentioned, flipping a switch. And so there's a lot of other nuances. There's a lot of other stakeholders. So I'm not blind to that. And I'm not, here saying everyone else has to now pay. But I am just giving you the gravity of the situation and the reality on the ground as to what this is and what might be. So with that, I will just say thank you very much for everyone's time. I'm here to stay for as long as you want, but I also want to be respectful of those other people that have other issues.
Before you go, one thing first. Carly, did you want to say something? I saw you pop up here.
When we get into the discussion about the staff report, I would just want to know the specifics of what we're requesting to be on it.
Okay, so we'll do that then next then. Okay, and Deputy Mayor, did you have something to say?
Well, I just wanted to add to what we're talking about, because I think in that staff report, we need to look at what the cost is for legals, and if we're even legally allowed to do this based on the municipal act to lower this, because it kind of falls into that, could be viewed as bonusing businesses. So we have to be very careful. And I think that's another point that we need to add to that staff report.
Okay, so I guess Bobby or Mr. Parker, he can go now and we can deal with this. You don't need to stick around for that, because we'll probably hammer this out for the next few minutes.
Okay, well, thank you everyone on here for your time. Thank you for your comments, and look forward to continuing the conversation.
Thank you, Bobby. Have a great
Thanks,
day.
Bobby.
Take care.
Okay, so now on this motion, I do agree we have to actually identify what Carly needs on it, right? And really, I think you did hear a little bit of what I said. Those are the sort of things that I was looking for. I'm looking for a reason why we do it and what are the benefits from it. That's really what I'm looking at. And I'm sure there's some other things. I'll let other people speak. I'll let who's got their hand up first. Okay, you beat everybody, Councillor Bell.
Thank you. Well, just because I was going to say, typically deputations are received for information, and then if we have a discussion, that discussion comes up under new business. So I don't think we're doing this right. Like, we need to actually receive that presentation, and then like typically we don't discuss deputations, right?
I want to say we received the information. We asked for a staff report in this meeting right now. Clerk, Jennifer.
My understanding that we're determining what we want in the staff report, correct?
Right. So we should do that now.
Yes. And then we will pass the motion receiving and staff prepare a report. Then staff have the knowledge of what we want in the report, what you want in the report.
Okay, so what do you want in the report then?
Okay, so I guess for starters, my initial comment is going to be we haven't reviewed and considered bylaw 2001.50 presently, meaning we have no clarity on roles and responsibilities. We have no clarity on who is the decision maker with regard to levy or any other aspect of the Lagoon City Parks and Waterways Commission. To some of the comments that have been raised as we've been speaking, we don't have the answer to those questions. So I understand why you want to have a staff report, but you're putting it would be putting the cart before the horse, or whatever that saying is, because we don't know who gets to make the decision anyway. So therefore, it would be this staff report will have to come after the roles and responsibilities are determined, because that will then determine what might be in the staff report. So we're in a situation, and the situation we're in right now is that we can't make a decision ultimately. So I don't know what. All we'd be doing right now if we ask for a staff report is actually costing our community money to create this staff report for
Point of order, Cal.
Execute.
Deputy Mayor?
This isn't the question. The question is, what do we want in the staff report? If we could just stay on track with the topic.
Right.
I am staying on topic.
Sure,
I am on topic, because
Counselor,
we can't, I'm not supporting a staff report then, so go ahead and have a conversation, but
Counselor,
I'm not spending money on a report we can't use.
we're definitely going to be using the report one way or the other, and the next, whatever happens, we'll be able to use the staff report. So let's get this done, because I don't want to hold it back. He wants an answer. So if we do it now, we can get it done in the next month or so. So let's get the information and not just sit on it. So if you want to, it's fine. It's fine, Councilor. You can do what you want, but I think we need to get a staff report. So you put the, did you put the motion on, or no? Deputy Mayor put the motion.
Deputy Mayor and Commissioner Mason.
Mason, okay. So what we'll do then is decide what's on the staff report. And if you don't want a staff report, then vote against it then. Okay, and we won't have a staff report, and we'll have no report on what to do with this whole thing. Okay. So what do we want on the staff report? Deputy Mayor.
Yeah, I think we need to understand where and how the calculations and what the costs were that brought us from the 2014 levies to quadruple their rates in that time. And I also think we need to understand legally what we're allowed to do as the commission, because I do think the Municipal Act, there might be some blockages as to what we can and can't do. And I think that's important to have in that staff report.
Right. And also to what we've done to get there. We all know what that is, so that's not a big deal. It's just now to show it to the people what we had to do to get there. And
Exactly.
Also, we need to show what we do for it and what their money's being spent on. When we're dropping, what, $250,000 every 2 years to clear out the channels and all that work that we do getting out of there. So. Commissioner Mason or Commissioner Schussman, do you have anything to add to what you want in the report? Because you seem to ask a lot of questions. No?
I share Sherry's concern with regards to, we really don't know what our roles and responsibilities are right now. So I share that concern with Sherry. I agree that we need the staff report. And I think that's something we need to go forward with. The question is exactly what's in that staff report. I think we've got the basics here that says, how did we go from $214 to $880 in 4 or 5 years? It's a very good question. And I think the answer is pretty clear from what Sherry's presented. I mean, our capital investments have been very big for the last number of years. And I think part of the other issue is that for 10 years, the levy wasn't raised. So we got ourselves behind the 8 ball because of inaction by previous commissions. And we've had to raise it significantly over the last few years because of the fact that we didn't do it over previous years. Otherwise, we probably wouldn't have had to raise it as much as we have if we'd been a little bit more proactive and been raising it more slowly over a period of time. So I'm sharing my thoughts with Sherry as regards to, I think we need to figure out what our roles and responsibilities are, because right now the bylaw outlining our commission is, we haven't discussed that, and I see some very serious concerns with the way the bylaw is written right at the moment. But I do agree we need a staff report.
Again, you know what? The bylaw is not under discussion here. We're after just a report. If you're talking the bylaw, it's months away. So if we want to put everything on hold, then we're wasting our time doing deputations. So we have no answer for them. I could have gone on and on why why it went from 214 up to 800 at that time, but I didn't feel it was necessary to do it at that time I would have to imagine it would be when we get a staff report, we can get in more detail and talk about it, right? And that's the way I feel about it. So, let's see, Councillor Bell.
Sorry, thank you. But some of, like, I don't understand what you're asking for, because what you're asking for is what we already know. And that's information Bobby needs, but we know that. We know where we've spent money in the last 10 years. Our budgets are posted. We know that the capital expenditure toward the harvesting equipment is some 800,000, $1.5 million in bridges. There's the dredging and we know that, though. Like, any one of us right now can go open the budgets and do some math, right? We just need a calculator. So I'm not grasping what we want in a staff report. So Deputy Mayor is asking for the legal aspect of it, and we don't know that. We can't have a staff report on that because we haven't done the roles and responsibilities. Our staff costs have shot through the roof over these last years. Right now, what I'll be talking about as we move forward is how do we reduce those costs, certainly not increase them. So, what I'm hearing us say is we want to show Bobby where we spent our money. He can find that too. And certainly finance can assist him by providing him where he can find the budgets and that sort of thing. But this staff report cannot contain any aspect of legal. It can't contain any aspect of municipal act because it's not relevant at this moment. All we know is very basic information, which is that all powers were transferred to the commission in 2001. Effectively, we don't know what that means yet. We can read the bylaw and we can see what it says. So there's nothing legal that could be placed into this document previous to a roles and responsibilities, and our own solicitor working with the township solicitor to determine. So I'm really unclear on what you're asking for. It sounds like you're asking for information that Bobby needs, and I'm not. I believe that he needs the information. I wholeheartedly agree. But that's just not a staff report. A staff report would be for us to tell us something, and we can't know this legal aspect of it. We can't know that yet. Simply,
so we're just dancing back and forth here now. And as far as I'm concerned with it, that I don't want that I know all about it, but I don't want to tell everybody what I know because I don't know the exact numbers. I don't know it all. I would like a staff report that supports what we know, what we're talking about, so everybody knows what we're doing. I don't think Commissioner Mason or Commissioner Shoesmith really has the ability to go after all these budgets from 8 years ago, 7 years ago. It's a lot of work to do that. Many hours. It would be a lot better. Somebody's got it, can have it immediately. So if we don't want a staff report and we want to not do anything about it or whatever, somebody puts the motion out somewhere else, then fine, do it. But let's vote on this once and for all. Let's get moving on, right? It's a simple thing here. So I don't want to spend all day on this one, right? And we're after a staff report to get a report back to him in a deputation there. That's not the time for us to drill them and answer all his questions. It's really up to us to answer his question for the money. And that's really the bottom line, what we need to do about the dollars and what our feeling is, and to get as much information as we can to make that decision. So that's why I'm asking for a staff report. Deputy Mayor.
Thanks, Cal. The other piece is we're probably going to have to approve some kind of money for legal advice based on whether we have the legal right to make that decision. I think that's the only added piece.
Well, I would have to imagine what's coming up later about the lawyers that you guys have asked me to look into. Once we get that information, it's going to help us make a lot of the next decisions. But we still have to keep going the way we're going.
No, I agree, Cal. But what I'm saying is, one of the questions that I had asked for is, what are our limitations as to lowering those levies? If that's a legal question, so we will have to pay for that advice, that piece of the report, unless we don't want it in there. But I think it's important.
I didn't think we needed to worry about that yet until we made the decision whether to lower them, right?
Fair.
Yeah. Once we made the decision to lower it, then we get legal advice, right? Okay. So we've danced around this on you, Carly and Jennifer. Do you kind of know what we're after here to pose this?
I would look at the deputy treasurer for her response.
Hi, Cal. I'm not entirely sure what you're after. I can provide what the levy was charged in past years, and we have financial statements on our website. So I'm not sure if you just want the levy charge from the past years, if you want what financial details you're looking for. I'm not entirely sure.
So what information, Commissioner Mason, Commissioner Shoesmith, and Deputy Mayor, are you looking for the budgets? Are you in our income statements? Are you able to access that, or do you need us to like get it as a staff report?
I'm not really sure how this is going to advance the situation as it stands right now. This is just a review of history. I mean, he's looking for the future, so I don't know what the advantage of all this is to begin with.
Well, if I can jump in, Cal, I think part of the reason this staff report and the advantage to it is let's look at what all of our capital costs were since 2014. If a lot of those things don't have to be replaced or repaired for the next 10, we know that the levies don't have to be as high as they are. We were covering those costs because they came up. But it's going to change everything if we don't have a lot of capital expenditures, because the bridges are fixed. We've got the new harvester. We've got a lot of the things covered. So really, those levies should actually probably come down if we don't have the same capital expenses coming up, depending on the 10-year work plan.
But the levies would come down for everybody, not just him. Yeah. Commissioner or Councillor Bell.
Thank you. And I would point out that the levy's sitting where it's sitting without any capital expenditures this year. So I'm not sure how we think it's going to come down unless economies change, right? So we're not making any real capital investments this year. What we're trying to do this year was put a little bit back in reserves, right? So there's no we're sitting at that approximately 880. That's where we are. So unless we're going to find reduction in things like staff costs, or just one example where so we don't, there's no, exactly what Greg said. There's simply no, all of the financial information is available. I don't know what we're asking Carly to do. We can go see it. We've got 7 years posted online as we stand. So I don't know what I think it's 7 years. I have to go pop it open, the budget page, but I don't know what we're asking for, right? Like this isn't from, all Carly has to do is say to Bobby, here's where you find the financials. So we can't answer the legal pieces, and the financial pieces are available. So I'm really not grasping what we're looking for in a staff report. Valuation is not relevant. That's a council or a township issue. As far as, property tax goes, that has no bearing on the levy. So I really don't understand what we're asking for in this staff report. I really don't.
I think it's transparency as far as our decision goes, Cal. Sorry to jump in there, but I mean, if we're making a decision of any kind that's going to affect the people in Lagoon City, we're then going to have to tell everybody in Lagoon City that has a concern or is affected by this to go to the website and figure it out themselves. And that's not fair to them. They pay a lot of levies. We should be able to provide that information, what made us come to the decision we make. And that's my opinion. But maybe we vote on whether we have a report, because we're still arguing whether we have a report or not. If we're not going to, we just don't discuss it anymore. If we are, then we just move ahead with it.
Let's do it. Move on, because you know what? Honestly, I kind of already know what a lot of what talked about, but I was more or less reaching out to the rest of the commission so that they didn't have that information. Then here was your chance to get it. I roughly know the number. I know everything he asked, and I decided I wasn't going to jump in. I wanted, to get a report and let you guys see it. So let's decide if we're going to do a report. You're absolutely right. So now I got to change this, right? Because I want to just move on. I think we're spending way too much time on this, really.
So the motion that's on the floor is that you'll receive the deputation and that staff prepare a report.
Okay, and if nobody wants a report, then we don't need
And we
it.
just receive the deputation.
Okay, that's what's on the floor.
And Deputy Mayor Bell moved and Commissioner Mason second.
All right, so I'm not going to say any discussion because we've already discussed it, right? All in favor? So it's it's 3-2. So now we want a report. So what do we want on the report? Pretty well what we just talked about, right? Because I think, you know what? One of the words is transparency was a good thing said there. That we do need to do that, because I roughly know a lot of what he asked for, and I didn't respond there because I'd rather get the proper information from staff. So a lot of what he was asking for, the decrease and so on and so forth, and how it's tied in with council, because I would have to imagine council's involved in this too, because he's talking about the benefits that the marina has for Ramara. Well, it's not up to the people of Lagoon City to pay for that. Then if there's such a benefit there, then you're looking outside to the taxpayer, because I believe they're in for, the general taxpayers in for $96,000, right? If I remember correctly. So that's another thing. Does it go any further? So, but anyways, do you ask? I don't know what to ask for here. So I think I'm trying to think of what to ask for to what we need for our next decision.
I think, Cal, that we're just asking for any information that's going to help us make a better, clear, transparent decision. If we're allowed to make that decision on whether we entertain this decision to lower the levies or not.
Right. And so it'd be a general sort of thing. And then we'd have more questions once we get that, and away we go.
Yep.
Councillor Bell.
Thank you. So just as again, I'm going to repeat, we can't get any information about whether we can make the decision until we've met with our lawyer. So now what you're saying is we're not going to do this staff report until 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, whatever, however long it takes for a lawyer to review the Mara Act bylaw 2001.50 and determine who's responsible for making the decision. So that question can't be answered unless we're saying we're going to we recognize that this staff report doesn't come back for some number of months. That's my first comment. My second comment or question is what I'm hearing is we're asking Carly to go back over the budgets, and you basically want her to summarize a decade of budgets, and you want, and I'm going to sort of make a visual out of it. So you want a line that says X number spent on clean flow, X number spent on bridges, X number spent on harvesting equipment, X number spent on whatever. So you're basically asking for Carly to go do the math that we could do ourselves. Like I'm just trying to understand what we're looking for. And because we don't need to do a staff report for Bobby.
Point of order.
I'm asking a question. There's no point of order when I'm asking.
There is a point of order because the decision was made to go ahead with the staff report.
And I'm asking what this financial
sorry, he asked me what my
information
point of
looks
order is, Councillor Bell. And he had asked, we had decided to do a staff report. The question that the Commissioner Johnson has asked is, what would you like to see in that? Not everything you don't want to see and why we shouldn't do it. We've already decided we're doing it. So I think that we have to stay on point with the discussion.
Right. And I'm asking what kind of financial information we are looking for. So I'm trying to help Carly understand what it is we're looking for. I don't grasp it because I can read the budget. So I'm saying, are we looking for totals? Like, I don't know what we're asking her for. So I don't know how she knows what to present to us.
I believe our chair has left, so I think we should probably take over and just recess for 10 minutes until we find out what's happening.
Agreed.
Is that good with you, Jen?
Yes, that's fine. It's 10:30, 10 minutes.
Sounds good.
Sure.
Sorry about that. My wife put her headset on and it's her computer, so of course I went to music.
All good, Cal. I think we're almost ready to come back. I think we gave
Yep.
10 minutes. We should be coming back anytime.
Yep, it's 10:40.
Yeah, well, I don't think she realized her earphones worked right out on the street when she put them on, so. But it cuts everything off. It happened to me once before when she did that. Are we live now?
Yes, we are.
Okay. So everybody is back now, right? We need, let's see.
Yes.
We're all here. Okay.
Yep.
Now, I think you were talking when I got cut off. I don't know how much longer you talked, Councillor Bell.
I'm sorry, I don't know exactly when you had gone, but that's okay. What I was saying is based on what Carly's reaction has been, we have not given her clarity on what this, so we don't want to charge Lagoon City's residents for something that Bobby needs for his business. Do you know what I mean? So we don't need a staff report for Bobby. If Bobby wants information, he can come to the township and request that information, right? Like so what I'm saying is, I don't know what we're asking Carly to put in the report. We have all our budgets online. We can all go access them and read them. So I'm trying to get clarity for Carly on what this financial information is that we need. So, and what I'm saying is, are we asking her to say, here's how much in total on clean flow, here's how much in total on bridges and on harvesting equipment and so on? Like, are you looking for these totals so that there's an overview of the main expenditures that we've seen? Or like, I don't know what we can tell her when all those financial reports are available. So I'm trying to find a way to help Carly understand what this financial information is that we as a commission need. Forget what Bobby needs, because we don't charge the residents for what he needs, right? So what do we as a commission need? So for me, I'm saying all that information's there. So I'm trying to help her understand what you guys are asking for, like, because you're just saying financial information, but what? Like, I don't know what you're asking for.
Okay, well, Councillor Bell, what I'm asking for is, I want to be totally transparent, because I've basically already decided where I'm going on all of this, but I think it should be transparent because I have all the reasons, and a lot of the reasons, I don't really want to talk about it right now, because it should be in an open discussion when we're making this. I think people should get as much information as they can, and whatever information I can get from Carly, and I probably know a lot of it, but a lot of the residents don't know that. And if it looks like we're doing it for Bobby, we're also doing it for the residents to make them understand what we're trying to decide on what to do. And when somebody says to me, why did you do that? I can give you all the reasons why I've made the decision. And that's just, the way it is. And I don't know whether this is the time to discuss it. Normally what happens when you do a deputation, you don't ask a lot of questions. You don't debate it with them. You ask them questions that you've missed. We debated a little bit with them and we let it go that way. But we're supposed to talk amongst the rest of us later and debate all that. Okay? And that's how I think a deputation should go. And you should never make the decision, I feel, on the same day, because there could be more information from staff that I didn't know about. And that is really what I'm saying right here. If there's any more information, whether they've discussed anything with them or anything else I need to know, I'd like to know. And I would not make the decision right now. I would need it in a staff report, or next month I would talk about it again. And
Thank you. I agree. I'm not asking to make the decision today. I'm just trying to grasp what financial information we're asking for in a structured way, so Carly knows what we're asking for, so that we're not spending a lot of staff time with her trying to muddle together things when she doesn't know what we're asking for. That's all. I don't know what this financial information is. I'm not against I'm number one proponent for accountability and transparency. I say it so many times, it's insanity. So it's just, we need to be clear. Like, we need to have clear direction on what it is we're asking for.
Okay, so let's go. Does anybody, what information? Councillor or Commissioner or Deputy Mayor Bell has asked what he needs, which he's given. So that would go up. And does anybody else need anything? If you don't need anything, then we don't. Commissioner Shearsmith.
Well, I'd just like to see a compiling of the data to know what direction these funds went and how we can maybe make changes in order to assist everybody in this community, including the marina. just so we know where things are headed and where they came from. So, if we have all these years and years of information, unless it's put in some sort of structured way to find out how it got to this point, we're never going to know. So I think we need a report just as groundwork to get started for future development.
So Carly, do you understand what he wants there?
Okay, so I can get the levy rates from 2014 to present. We do have financial statements on our website from 2016 to present, well, to 2024. And LCPW is a separate set of statements within. I can provide links to financial statements. And if we want further information, I would just want to know what further information we would require. Or if you were mentioning some capital expenses. So if you just wanted me to consolidate just the capital expenses.
Is that what you're after, Commissioner Shoesmith?
Well, in a general sense, sure. Just sort of an overview of all expenses to sort of determine how we got to this point. I mean, one of the major concerns was it went up 400% in 10 years. So how did we get to that point?
Okay, and that information we'll show you, and it'll be something we can discuss, and I can probably help you with it when we have our discussion.
Mm-hmm.
Deputy Mayor, what did you want? Just to go back, so I'm not sure if Carly picked up what you wanted.
Yeah, I think it was just the same thing, Cal, just talking about transparency. So anything that's going to lead us to a decision one way or another when we're evaluating this and discussing it, when we're bringing this out into the public eye, we have to look at what the public want to see, and they want to understand so that they're in this conversation with us. So if they are in the gallery or if they're online, they can ask questions, or they can ask questions of their council or somebody on the council. And we just need to understand where the marina's at and how we got there and how all the residents' levies got to where they are. And I think it's just about compiling the costs that got us there, but also looking at our next 10-year capital to say, this is what we predict in the next 10 years. So this is why we shouldn't be even looking at considering the levy decrease because of that. And I think that's going to help us at least have a conversation. I think that's all we want to do is have a conversation. We're not making a decision on any of this, but we need to be transparent.
Okay, did you get that, Carly?
So Keith mentioned a 10-year capital. So I would be curious what future projects we have envisioned if I would be to create a 10-year capital forecast. If it's replacement of existing and we are aware of the useful life, that is something that we have in finance. But if we're incorporating new capital beyond what's existing, that would be something that I would need to know.
I think every department has a 10-year capital expenditure, Carrie. I think if we looked at, it's probably coming from the infrastructure department, though. They'll probably have something there for it. Looking at things that have to be replaced or upgraded or modified, anything that they can see as far as breaks.
I think we do have a 10-year, do we not?
I believe we do.
Okay. So Carly, if you provided that, I think it's there somewhere, but if you provided that. Okay. You're done? Okay, Councillor Bell, do you have any you want to say?
Thank you. No, what I was going to say, I'm just saying thank you for answering the question, which is all I was trying to get to, is what is it that we're asking Carly for? So I appreciate that everybody chimed in. As far as the 10-year capital plan, I know Josh was working on that, or former. Anyway, so I don't know where he is.
Did that already? You have it.
Yeah, he's been working on that. So we should be able to look at like the asset management plan for the equipment and things like that. So I think that that's partially there. But so I just want to kind of paraphrase, because so what we're saying is, we want a look at the last decade so that we can kind of give an overview of where all our capital expenditures were, and then look at our 10-year forecast. So is that everything that we want in there? Because I just want to make sure we often send staff away without them understanding exactly what we're looking for. So I just want to make sure that we don't do that and that we've encompassed everything in this report.
Okay, I think she understands it. Do you have anything you want to add to it? No? Okay. And I'll go last, and then when we're done, we'll vote on it. Commissioner Mason, I know you had said something. I'm not sure if Carly picked up on it. No?
No, I'm, I'm kind of, I was waffling a little bit on whether we wanted the staff report or not. Now that we've got a little bit more clarification as to what we're looking for, certainly the 10-year plan and forecast would be something that would really assist us in determining what the likelihood of increases over the next 5 to 10 years are going to be for the levy, and would maybe assist us in making some decision as to whether we could make a levy reduction in the future or not. So I'm now supporting the idea of getting an understanding of the capital expenditures so far in the last 10 years and an understanding of where we're going for the next 10.
Okay, Carly, you got it all?
It sounds like we want the summary of the levy charges from 2014 to present. Potentially providing links to the financial statements on our website for previous years, and a summary of a 10-year capital forecast, which is based on current assets that would need replacement or current vehicles that would need replacement based on our useful life. And looking into where Mr. Kavanaugh may have been with a 10-year capital forecast, and continuing on with that if it is in the works.
So is this going to be one of those staff proceed as directed?
We already voted on it, Cal. It was
Yeah,
to
we already,
that was,
this is just clarifying, Commissioner Johnson, this is clarifying what the commission wants in the report. So you've passed the motion that you want a report. We're just clarifying what is going in the report.
Okay.
So we're good.
So are we going to see that like put down in writing what we asked for, or no?
I wasn't going to, Commissioner Johnson.
No.
You were just clarifying for staff.
Okay, to what to look for then, and then we can update it if we see it when it comes out a week before, hopefully, and get some more added to it if we see something we need. Okay, last one. I want to vote. Commissioner.
Thank you. Yeah, no, but I do want it. Would like to see it written down, please, because we have numerous motions where we don't have clarity. So when
Can
we
you provide something to me, Councillor Bell?
Yes, and Carly helped me out. It maybe possibly, please, if I don't quite capture it. So we're looking for a 10-year summary of levy charges and the continuation of any asset management plan and the 10-year forecast of expected expenditures.
Capital forecast?
Yes, thank you.
Is there another forecast like cap?
Just yeah.
We would have operating costs, but operating costs would typically be very similar year over year with maybe 1% for inflation included. Operating costs would increase if you were anticipating like adding additional staff or additional costs that you don't usually have annually. Like maybe you wanted to have another event annually that doesn't exist previously, so that would change the forecast. But it would be if everything was continuing on as the same process from last year, we would use an inflation rate in terms of an operating forecast.
That would show up in our budget. We've seen. Okay, perfect. Yeah. All right then. All in favor?
Have a mover and a seconder, please.
I thought I had one already.
You did for the first motion. This is the second motion.
Oh, okay. Somebody put on the floor. Deputy Mayor Bell, seconded by Commissioner Shoesmith. All in favor? That's passed. Okay, so hopefully we get to the next one quickly. That is okay. So the next one's accounts and budgets. 7.1 Lagoon City Parks and Waterway voucher January 31st, 2025. Where am I reading this? Recommendation: the accounts voucher dated January 31st, 2025 received this information. Somebody put on the floor for me, please. Commissioner Shoesmith, second by Councillor Bell. Discussion on that. Is there no other? Councillor Bell.
Thank you. I have a few, and some of them are just quickie questions, and then some is going to lead to discussion, which we'll probably pick up later. So my first question is on Hydro One. We have, my first question is, it looks like we maybe didn't pay the hydro bills. I'm not sure what happened there. So it was kind of difficult to follow, 62 pages of vouchers. So I think I understand where we are with all the different hydro bills. One question I did have, though, is there's the Poplar Crescent Snack Shack shows up, and it's a small expense, but it does vary month by month. And I'm not sure, is this like a standby charge? Because it has never been used. We had checked it when we thought we were going to have the beach party, and to make sure the hydro was active, and then it's never been used. So the amount is around $30, but it just fluctuates up and down. So it's not a major expense. It's just, I don't know if other people are plugging into it or what, like if it's a standby or what it is. If anybody knows that would be helpful just to know that.
Before Carly answers that, whoever, I know Commissioner Mason's got his hands up. We'll just hear what he says.
I'm going to take a bit of a guess here. I would expect that there is some plumbing in that snack shop, and I would expect that there's probably needs to be some minimal amount of heat provided to prevent the plumbing from freezing. So that would be my educated guess on why it would be about $35 and vary by month depending upon the temperature, the outside temperature. So that would be my guess.
I see Chris here. Chris, did you have an answer to that?
Yeah, so I just wanted to confirm to Councillor Bell that the power is shut off there at the breakers, so there's no external plugs that anybody could be gaining access to. So there would be nobody using any power at that facility, anything external to the building. So
okay, so the $30-odd we're seeing is what William's saying. It's just we've got something plugged in to stop the pipes from freezing, or
I don't think there's any plumbing in that building. Cal, you can maybe confirm that with me or not. But I think it's just going to be a standby fee because there is power still supplied there. It is powered, but we are controlling where the power is being sent to. We did turn it on last year for the event that went on, or the beach party that was supposed to happen. We did turn it on. We did some testing and stuff then, but it's just generally shut off. And I think that's just a standby service delivery fee, I think, that you're seeing.
Yeah, we did shut it off,
Perfect.
which I remember, and I don't recall any plumbing in there. So yeah, I think it's just a standby fee of some sort.
So the
thank
standby,
you. I didn't.
$35. That's what it was, right? Councilman?
Yeah, it varies from 32 to 35. It's not a big expense. I just didn't know if it's on or off or what I just wanted to know what it is.
So I'm not going to interrupt you, but in that same thing, Chris, one thing I did notice that when I was looking, I was trying to figure out how many meters that we had. And when I looked down, I saw 6, and then I tried to figure out how did that 35 get in there? Like, was it part of one of the other meters, or how? I was kind of curious how all those meters tied together, because I was trying to research that $35 that Councilor Bell was talking about.
So if I'm not mistaken, and I probably have to do a little research myself to confirm this 100%, but I believe that every facility that the commission has its own meter at each location. So each clean flow shed has its own meter at each location. The kiosk would have a meter at its own location, and every facility thereon out where the hydro is will have its own facility.
So yeah, because in my math, I figured we should have 7 meters from what you just said, but they were only showing 6.
Yeah, I'd have to confirm the numbers,
Okay.
Cal, if that's what we really wanted to do, but they haven't changed. I mean, they've been the same over the last while. As we add the last clean flow shed, there would have been one there, right? So
right, and in all that, it'd be interesting to get a breakdown electrical on what we're using, because there should be another one in there for the water movers too, right? Right, so there's a lot of meters there, so I want to make sure that we're getting all the right meters. That would make it now 8 meters plus 9 now, and plus whatever's at the bathroom, right? So, anyways,
well, if the commission wishes for me to proceed with an inspection on meters on the facilities that the commission has there, I certainly can. I just need a direction from the commission, and then I can provide a report. So.
I'm more interested in coming from the financial side on what they're using. Would that be you, Carly?
You're more interested in me providing financial side of the Hydro One billing?
I'm just figuring how many meters do we have on Lagoon City, like the commission, and which ones we're using,
I can,
and how much we're using on it. Because what it does is, if I remember correctly, there's actually, it might even be more. There's 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. I'm up to 10 now, and
okay.
I don't see 10 bills. That's why I was just kind of curious.
So there's bills provided from November, December, and January in this accounts voucher. I don't believe there was a January meeting, and due to the Canada Post strike, we were held up with payment on our November billing. So it just wasn't posted before the December meeting, I believe, was it available? So the bills for the smaller amounts, if I'm looking at the summary here, the first Hydro One bill of $1,763, we do have the invoice attached with all the details. I think maybe the larger invoice that sums up a lot of the different townships expenses, I didn't provide the detailed metered usage. So you're looking for the metered usage for all the ones that are not already provided in this summary?
Well, what I'm trying to do is make it easier for us to look at it and understand it quicker. And whether or not in our statements we have an actual breakdown on it. Because I was trying to figure out what the cost was for the water movers, what it cost us to use last year.
Cal, we didn't use them last year.
No, we didn't. You're right. Okay.
Yeah, that's why I think I know, because I thought I said.
Oh, okay.
That's looking
why
for that. Yeah, I know that one. But yeah. So before I go on to the next one, I will say that I will be revisiting hydro from a different perspective, though, because there's this discussion of naming the clean flow sheds, right? And then when we do that, we would hopefully be able to have the invoicing corresponding, right? So, but that's not within the account vouchers, so I'll move past that one. So I'm okay to go to the next one unless you have more.
No, I'm good, but you're going to bring up the new business then about the.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Okay. So the next one I have, again,
can we take a vote on 7 or is this a question on this voucher as well?
Yes.
Okay, sorry, apologize.
Yep. No, that's okay. And this one, again, it won't be for discussion at this point, because again, it's going to relate to the MARA Act and the 2001.50, et cetera. But here we have legal expenses, some 24,000 or whatever it is here. And again, we were told at one point that this is a township bylaw and therefore it's a township expenditure. But now we're where we are and we don't know what we don't know. So I'm just pointing out that we have some legal here and this is maybe an expenditure that doesn't belong. And that might be an adjustment that comes down the road. So that's that one. My next one is likely going to be through the chair to Chris. We have an expenditure for backhoe loader, and the billing period identified is October 22nd to November 19. And it's a $3,000 about expenditure for Georgian equipment. And I think I'm curious because we weren't harvesting at that point. So I'm not clear on why we have an additional month rental on that backhoe. So I was hoping you might be able to clarify that one.
Just looking at that now. So Georgian equipment won't have anything to do with the backhoe rental, Councillor Bell. Georgian equipment, if that's the invoice you're looking at, that is a repair to the one harvester when it came out of the water.
Hang on, I'm going to scroll back up. I took all the page numbers so that I could quickly reference them and make sure I'm looking at the right thing. So Georgian is what page again? 45. Okay. Because there's a notation that says that it is that billing period. That's why. I have to move you off Zoom for a second so I can make this bigger. Sorry. Sorry, guys, there's just so many vouchers and I'm trying to scroll through, and I tried to get all of the page numbers to correspond to the actual piece of equipment. So
We
let
gotta
me
get
do it.
hydro bills.
I know, it's 29.29, so I'm just gonna search the document for that. It'll be faster.
I see it here. I see it here. It's United Rentals for the backhoe loader.
Yeah, sorry. So United Rentals, I said Georgian, apologies. Yeah, and so the time frame is after we're done harvesting. So I'm curious, I guess, why we were still renting the harvester, or why we were still renting the backhoe if we were finished harvesting.
Okay, I do see that there now that you identified which
Thank
one we're
you.
looking
Thank
at.
you, William.
Yeah, no, I do see that. Let me investigate into that. I don't know. This was before I started taking over the stuff, so I'll have to investigate into that and come back to the commission with an answer on that one.
Thank you very much. Deeply appreciated.
Do you have
So
any- You have
one,
more?
yeah, one more. So we have a gondola canal noise monitoring TATHM 30 November 24 for 1508. Again, I'm not sure what that particular expenditure is for in November, so I would ask that question, number one. And then number two, I would also say this I will be coming back to again under later in the agenda. For the moment, though, I'd be looking for what did we spend this 1508 on in November through the chair to Chris, and you may not know that right now. I understand that, but
Yeah, so I think you're referring to the Tatham bill in regards to noise. That was regarding some meetings we had with the engineer and a pump specialist in the engineering department to get to the bottom and try and start figuring out this noise that we've got coming from the water movers. So that'll be what that's all about there. We had a meeting or two towards the end of the year there. So
okay, thank you very much. I think that's all I had out of that report. Cal.
Any other questions on that? All in favor?
Sorry, Cal, I don't mean to interrupt. I raised my hand. However, I just had one more comment on the vouchers while we're here. There was a question at the last meeting, what was in the duckweed account? So on this account voucher, we have an invoice from Georgian Waste, which is the pickup for a toilet rental at Lagoon City weed offload. We coded $922 for that toilet rental for the months of June to November in that duckweed account. So there is no budget there for 2025. The account allocation is not ideal for 2024. And I'm proposing that we would code that to a budgeted account for 2025 in the contracted services, so long as that is for the canal maintenance and weed control. So I think it was just off by.
Yeah, I'm just gonna declare a conflict of interest on that one. That's my company, so I'm gonna mute myself and I'll turn my camera off.
So that was all my comment was just following up on the last meeting. We'd said, what's the nature of this duckweed expense account? Why is there money in it? We don't have a budget for 2025. What's going on? So I was just following up with that was for the toilet rental. And I think it would be more appropriate to put in contracted services for 2025.
I think you had that question, Councillor Bell.
I did, and I remember because I knew we had the conversation twice about whether it pertained to herbicide. So I'm glad to know that we've clarified that. So what we're saying is it was just a wrong item in the wrong expenditure in the wrong line item. So that's cool. So we'll move that into contracted services if I'm understanding what you're saying. Perfect.
Okay, was there any other questions? Sorry, I missed you there, Carly. I guess I can't vote on this. Okay, all in favor? That's passed. Okay, the next one is 7.2. The accounts vouchers dated February 28th, 2025. Recommendations that accounts voucher dated February 28th, 2025 received this information. On the floor, Commissioner or Deputy Mayor Bell, second by Commissioner Mason. Any questions on that one? That one seemed pretty straightforward. Okay, all in favor? Next one is 7.3 budget statute report, February 2025 monthly report. Lagoon City Parks and Waterways. Recommendations of budget to actual report dated February 28, 2025 be received as information. On the floor would be Commissioner Shoesmith, second by Commissioner Mason. Discussion. I think did I have something on that one? Just bear with me. Did you have something, Councilor Bell? Yeah, okay, go ahead.
I do, but I actually think Carly her hand is up, so she might know what it is already. So
Oh, sorry, Carly.
Yes, I wanted to comment, just so we're aware, the 2025 budget for the 8-ton excavator, it was part of the approved budget for 2025. So the figure in the budget column will be maintained. We do not impact the approved budget. However, the amount is transferred to reserves. If you can refer to page 1 of the budget to actual report, in the administrative expense groupings, the final item says to reserves, and we budgeted 228,000 to reserves, but the actual reflects what we contributed from the 8-ton excavator. So in the budget remaining column, you can see that it exceeds the budget by 92,500, which is the excavator. So I just wanted to comment on that, because we don't change what was approved in budget meetings, but we did, it is transferred into your reserves.
Okay. Was that your question?
it was, thank you. So just so I understand then, there was approved motion by commission to return it. So just so that people that are listening understand, commission is aware that it was being returned to reserves. We motioned that back in December because at that time there had been no appetite from council to share in that proposed expenditure from infrastructure. So I just want to be clear that yeah, so that's why commission asked to return it back, was because that, there was no agreement on that. So I appreciate that. Thank you, Carly, for clarifying.
And this here is something good to look at. You can see what we spend our money on and what we do. Any other input on this? Any other questions? All in favor? Let's pause. 7.4, levy calculation follow-up from February 18th meeting. Recommendation received report LC0125 as information. Put on the floor. Commissioner Deputy Mayor Bell, second by Councilor Bell. Discussion. Okay, there's no discussion on this because I have. Well, you go first, Councilor Bell.
No, I think you and I have the same question potentially, because I know we were looking at the different things. So if you go, then I'll
no, go ahead. I always let everybody go first. I never go.
So my question really was, or I guess my comment is, what we asked for was a visual table, which is, if we don't make a table, that's okay. We can maybe just do that ourselves. And then that's an expenditure that we don't have to put towards staff, as long as we've got the information. Making a document is not, that's easy enough. And our idea had been that we would be able to then post that document at ramara.ca on our page, so that at a glance residents were able to easily see how each different category of levy is calculated. Not the levy, we know that it's 880, but what does each different body within pay? So I guess what my question would be is, very easy when we're talking about my individual property, 1 times 880, whatever, easy. But as we get, and then the short-term rentals, fairly straightforward math as well. But then we get into these properties where we don't identify what the calculation is. We just say 9 properties have different calculations. I guess I would submit that this calculation, this is not actually or private information. The levy calculation is a public calculation. So I would want to be able to see what the calculation is on those 9 or 12. I guess it is the other 3 as well, maybe. I'm not sure, but we would want to see the actual calculation per property. And then that way we can create a table that a person can just at a glance look down and say, yep, these properties pay this. So we're just missing some numbers there, because it just gives us 9 properties and it doesn't actually specify what each of those is. So that doesn't quite give us the whole picture. So I'd be looking for those numbers, is I guess what I'm saying.
I guess, so I'm probably got the same question. I'm just curious why we didn't get that information on the marina, because I'd asked him for it, and I'm not even sure if his numbers he gave me is correct, because I don't know what our numbers are. So on this report, why did it just show that? Like, why didn't we have a breakdown like the rest of it?
If I may, Chair Cal, Mano and I discussed the nature of the chart, and after looking at what was provided from the deputy clerk in the past, this is information that is for an individual property owner. So we didn't feel comfortable sharing that information to a public format about how much residents are paying. However, if residents wanted to reach out to staff directly for the calculation, we are more than happy to provide that to the 9 property owners that have a unique calculation, or any property owner paying the levy. And the creating the chart was not a, I would say, user-friendly way of presenting the data, because it is so variable based on many different factors. So the bylaw is actually, in terms of understanding the financial impact of it, more straightforward than showing a grid. And if property owners did want the breakdown, that can easily be provided per their request.
Okay, I'm okay exactly how you put this. I have no problem with that at all. What I'm questioning is the very last one that says 9 properties or less, 1% will have different couch day by bylaw number. They have some type of commercial activities. I'm assuming the marina's in there.
Yes, that would include marinas.
So then why couldn't we know how many slips they had? So how we knew that they gave us that $240,000? Like, I'd like to see it broken out, how it's done. How many?
Okay, the reason we didn't, sorry, Cal, sorry. The reason we didn't, sorry about that. I'll let you finish.
No, you go ahead.
I'm not trying to interrupt you. Let me know when you're finished speaking.
Go ahead.
Okay. The reason why we didn't provide that in this meeting is because these property owners may not want that information shared with the public.
And that's not public?
The amount paid, so the tax bill that was provided from the deputation this morning is not public. That would be something that property owners would receive.
I'll get you in a second, Councillor.
Thanks.
The problem I have with this, though, is that we're the ones that make the decision, the commissioner. Shouldn't we know what the hotels are paying, how they're paying it, how he's asking for a rebate on dollars? Shouldn't we have a little more information than just saying there's 9 properties?
Yes, we can provide a detailed breakdown. I think it would be more appropriate perhaps in a closed session to show you what the revenue is for these 9 properties.
Yeah, I'd like to see that, because that's why I asked him how many slips that he had, because I didn't have that information, and I'd like to see the hotel too, how it's broken down, because we're now being asked to give somebody a break on slips. If that's decided, you know darn well every other person on here is going to ask for it too, right? So it's just something that we should probably have in our bag, so we know what we're talking about.
Yes, that can be provided. I think a appropriate way to provide the detailed breakdown for these 9 properties would be in a closed session, so that the public doesn't need the information that they're not required to be having. So the request for this was a grid or a chart per se, and it wasn't user friendly. It wasn't.
I'm fine with this, Carly. I don't have a problem with it. I don't know if anybody else does, but I'm okay with this because I can see it and I can break the numbers out myself. Councillor?
Thank you. I would disagree that the information is not public. The property tax calculation is a separate calculation from the levy. The levy is captured and this is a shared expenditure among a population, and everybody who shares in the cost of that levy and the cost of that equipment and so on needs to be able to know what is being collected from each of the properties in relationship to the levy. So the property tax calculation is a separate document and a separate matter, but all levy payers would need to be able to see how much levy is being collected on a per property basis. So I see no reason for this, unless you're intending to show a us their property taxes, which I don't want to see. I would see no reason for this to be any sort of closed session information. The total levy and then all of the expenditures that come out of that levy are 100% should and must be in the public domain, because it is a special and shared expenditure among a specific population. And so I would disagree that that is a private conversation. So I'm going to maintain that we would need to see those 9 amounts of levy, not property tax, and that should be transparent to the public who pays the bills for the Parks and Waterways Commission. And yeah, as far as creating a little table, I can do that. That's not something that we need to, staff doesn't need to be burdened with that, but I wouldn't be able to do it till we can see those 9 other properties.
Okay, I would leave that to the clerk, I guess, to decide whether, I saw Deputy Mayor, you had your hand up next.
I was just going to say the same thing. I think the clerk needs to make that decision, because I think by the Municipal Act, we can't actually identify financial information about anybody, including commercial properties. So let the clerk make that call, because I don't think that's up to us to make that call.
Yeah,
So then how do we identify what we pay, I guess is my question. How can we all say that we pay per property $884? It's the same principle. The levy is a public amount.
let's debate that another time. That's not what we're after here. Like, if the clerk tells us, we'll go the way and we can discuss it then. That was all I was after. I was interested because those were the final numbers you need really to break it down. That's all I have. So we'll get that one way or the other, either in a closed session or open session. Do I have to put that motion forward?
Yes, please.
Okay, so how do you want me to phrase this?
You're requesting calculations of the levy based on those 9 unique properties?
Yeah,
as listed in report.
The levy calculation report, LCO 1.
And Cal, I'll put that on the floor because you're chair.
Okay. Yeah. Why do I keep trying to do that?
I don't know.
We have a seconder?
We've got, I got Commissioner Basin. I can't believe I did that. Oh. So I have 2 motions on the floor now.
You have the levy calculation.
Right, and I have the.
If everyone's in agreement, if Deputy Mayor Bell and Councillor Bell are in agreement, we could add it to the original motion that we received.
Report
LCO1 as information, and that staff provide information regarding the calculation based on the 9 unique properties based on report LCO 125.
You guys okay with that? I see nods. Yeah. Do we any more information or any more discussion? All in favor? That's passed. Next one, we're going to 8.1, items of information. Bylaw 2050, a bylaw to establish the Lagoon City Parks and Waterways Commission. Recommendation is that we receive bylaw 2001.50, a bylaw to establish the Lagoon City Parks and Waterways Commission as information. I'd like.
And Cal, there's a second part to that motion.
Okay, what's the second part? I don't have it.
And that we forward to the solicitor that will be reviewing township staff resources and support to the Lagoon City Parks and Waterways Commission.
Okay, perfect. You got that? Because I was looking for that. I thought that was going to be there. Okay, put that on the floor, please. Commissioner Mason, second by Councillor Deputy Mayor Bell. You bells are getting me confused now as the day goes on. Okay, discussion on it. I think it's pretty straightforward. Okay, no discussion. All in favor? That's passed. 8.2. Township support to LCPWC. Recommendation that the report PW-0125 regarding staff resources and support be received as information. Somebody put on the floor for me. Councillor Bell, second by Commissioner Schuster. Let's have some discussion there. The reason I don't like to discuss first is I have to bring out my other computer. So who wants to go first? Or does anybody have any discussion? Councillor Bell.
Thank you. I do. So there's a few things that arose from some of the discussions we've been having around the roles and responsibilities. And first, I want to say thank you for the report because it's great. It gives a nice breakdown of all of the different things. But some of my concerns, as I sort of already alluded to, are just that our costs are rising, and we do have extremely high or relatively high staff cost, which is not traditionally something we saw through the commission. And it's great to have a lot of support, but it's also expensive. So I think there's some things that, procedurally within this report we would want to reconsider. So, and we did talk about this a little bit, and CAO Jackson agreed that moving forward, our reports would always come in writing. And given that we would be receiving written reports, I would say, unless we request for staff to be present, we wouldn't need staff to be present. So we don't need to have a whole number of people available to us and sitting in on meetings, meeting after meeting. In the past, what the system we used was Deputy Clerk Wainman was the go-between and liaise for us, and then went back to staff and said, these are the reports that commission's presenting. So I think I'm going to recommend that we, rather than we have staff available and attend up meetings, in many cases, we would only invite staff as needed. So that would be one amendment that I would want to make. The other thing is, as far as communications, I don't think we've gone back and forth over time with this. I started to prepare commission highlights way back when I was a volunteer, and then it moved over to the township. And I think I'm going to recommend that we don't continue. We don't need to be using the business manager's time creating social media and communication on behalf of the commission. I think pending the overall roles and responsibilities review, we can probably do without commission highlights, for example. And if there's a pressing need for something through social media, we could probably make a special request. But aside from that, I don't think that we need to continue to pay for that service. We've got quite a bit of expenditure in bylaw and very few bylaws. We did talk about this a little bit when the staff expenditure report came in, and we don't have a lot of interaction with bylaws. So my one thing here would just be, can we please just have an overview of how much bylaw time we've used? We didn't get that overall look. So even over a 3-year time period, something that we can weigh that says, how much bylaw enforcement are we actually using, so that we can see it? I'm not questioning whether bylaws offering a service at all, just if we can have a report that shows us how many times bylaw has been called and how much time they've actually spent in Lagoon City. And then on that stream, I would say the same thing as far as we have the the manager and maintenance. I think that it's even under maintenance, at least the manager anyway, fielding questions and concerns from residents. I don't know, again, that's necessarily, we don't need to have a senior level manager answering resident concerns. So one of the things I would recommend is just that we have somebody in the commission whose job is to do the communications on behalf of the commission. And then we can alleviate a senior level manager from spending expensive time answering those kinds of questions. And I think the process that we always used to use worked great, where, we could answer questions, and Kathy often answered them. And then only if it was something out of our ability, right? It became mechanical or something of a nature that the layperson doesn't know and might need some special assistance from somebody internally. And then you would go to that department and say, can you assist me in answering this question? But generally speaking, I don't think it's the best use of time to have a senior level person answering, sort of report of concerns. So I guess, and then it used to be that we would have reports back.
Point of order, Cal.
Yeah.
I think
we don't use Robert's rules, so.
The whole point of this was just to receive this as information as to what kind of time was spent. I don't think we're having the discussion at this point in time as to how we're restructuring it until we get the report back as to roles and responsibilities. So I just think we're just getting ahead of ourselves. I'm not trying to be rude, Councillor Bell, at all. I'm just saying that I think we're getting into a longer conversation about something that's just information at this point to review.
Okay, and one other thing, Councillor Bell, too, I see that the CAO's got her hand up too.
Thank you, but I was interrupted, so I would appreciate not being interrupted. We don't actually even use Robert's rules. Our procedure bylaw doesn't even reference Robert's rules, so there's no calling a point of order. So if we can just be respectful and not interrupt another speaker, then we don't end up in a situation where it becomes combative, because that's not what we're doing. My understanding, and we did have this discussion at the last meeting, was that we would receive this so that we could start to modify our procedures pending the roles and responsibilities. One of the things that we need to do is reduce our costs, and that's exactly what I'm talking about. It's very germane to this report. So I'm not finished, but I will obviously allow for the CAO to speak. I'm not going to interrupt, so I'll let that happen and then come back.
Councillor, how much longer have you got? She hasn't interrupted. She's waiting.
No, I know, but I appreciate that. And I am pretty much finished. What I was about to say is similar to if we can please see like a 3-year rolling on the bylaw, 3-year total cumulative. We used to always see the reported concerns, and we had a good sense of how many were coming in, and what kind of answers. So I'm asking for a report to be pulled on also the reported concerns or the service requests that came in over 3 years as well. I think 3 years is reasonable. It gives us an idea how much time is being spent, because again, I don't think it's appropriate for senior leadership to be answering those kinds of queries. We can do most of that ourselves, and traditionally we always did. So I appreciate the staff very much. I do. I'm not. It's not a good use of our money when we have commission members who have volunteered to do the roles.
Okay, so I will go to the CAO. I see your hand up, or is that by accident?
Yeah. Yes, Mr. Chair, thank you very much.
We can't hear you.
Okay. Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Yeah, okay. My apologies, Mr. Chair. My camera is not working once again, so I'm having a few technology issues, which is always fun. So thank you for acknowledging my hand. And if I can, just on this particular point, Mr. Chair, this was just a sort of start, right? So what we thought from a staff perspective was it was important for the commission to understand sort of how many hours are generally spent with respect to work that is done on behalf of the commission. What's worth noting is there hasn't been a full financial analysis of that. So for example, there's time spent by certain staff members that actually is not charged to the commission, but yet there is time that is actually spent by the staff. So this was supposed to be sort of just maybe phase 1, if you will, when you're actually, when you commission the lawyer to do your full evaluation, we will ensure that we provide that information to the lawyer so that they have all of that information when they're providing advice to you on the who does what, where, when, and how. So I just think it's really important, Mr. Chair, to understand that this is just for your information at this time. We will be doing a further financial analysis so that you can actually see what the true costs are of the staff resources. So I'm not sure at this stage we were looking to alter how we're doing our business. I thought we were waiting to see what the lawyer provides in terms of advice moving forward before we started to make any changes. It was my understanding we were going to operate status quo. And if I can, Mr. Chair, I'll put my hand up. I apologize again that my camera is not working, but if I do need to jump in, I'll just put my hand, and hopefully you can.
Yeah, I can see your hand. I do agree with what the CAO's doing. There is a give and take that we do. Let me just talk for a minute, Councilor.
Yeah.
Back. One of the things, though, that I think concern some people that have talked to me is when they see it and they see all the names here. And I think some people think, and I'm assuming it's not, that these people are at the meeting and that we're paying for all of that. But they're not. They're just, I think, doing their own work, and they're there in case we need somebody. Because I know that was when we first started with Kathy Wayman, when it was just the commission. What we found was, and even on council, we found at night, that people would come and they would just sit there the whole time, and we never really called on them. So that was when we changed the committee meetings in the morning so they could keep working. And if we needed to, we could call them, and within 15, 20 minutes, we could speak to them. And then eventually that's what we did in Parks and Waterways. They didn't sit there with just Kathy. We went and got them. And I'm assuming that's what's happening now. And I appreciate everything that the staff has done. As Councillor Bell said, they're doing a great job, and we're very appreciative for what they do. Councillor Bell, you know what? Before you go, nobody else can do, unless you're doing a follow-up here.
Yeah, just following up on that. But yeah, so I'm saying, yes, I agree, we'll receive this as information, but I do want to point out that we had quite a bit of discussion last meeting about what status quo meant and what it didn't mean. And in fact, when we walked out of the meeting, the last thing you said, Chair, was if I didn't bring all of these motions that I was just discussing, you would bring them yourself. That was the exact terminology. So I will agree right now that we accept this report. I brought the discussion, and then what's going to happen is when we get to new business, then I will bring all those various motions so that we can make modifications to our procedure over these next 6, 8, 10 months, whatever it's going to take for this roles and responsibilities, so that we can begin to get a handle on reducing some of all of this extra work. And there was other issues as well. It's not just the financial aspect of it. So I will, I'm finished. I've made the comments I want to make. So that'll be enough for now. And then when we get to new, I'll put all those motions on the floor. Thank you.
Is there any more discussion on we're on the township? Okay, so we're on 8.2 still. Is there any more discussion? All in favor? That's passed. 8.3, the weed harvesting backhoe rental. Recommendation is that the report LCO 225 regarding the backhoe rentals be received, and that the staff engage the services of the United Rental for the rental of a backhoe for the 2025 and the weed harvesting season. So we put on the floor. Commissioner Mason, second by Deputy Mayor. Discussion. That was pretty straightforward, actually. And it's that company, I think Chris did a great job, right? Okay. There it is.
Sorry, guys. Yeah, the piece of equipment we got last year from United Rentals was great. The company was great to deal with, and again, you see this year, and they're the cheapest again. So, from my experience, it was good to work with them. So,
okay, great work. All in favor? That's passed. Just a question: how do you do that wave? I was just trying to figure out. I turn it on and off here, or how does that all work? Okay, be another question later. Unfinished or new business? So, am I going to put it on the floor? I think we'll just talk about it. I don't have to put it on the floor, do I, Claire? Unless somebody comes up with something, right?
If there's nothing to discuss, we can move on.
Okay, does somebody have something? Okay. Councillor Bell has something.
Thank you. Yes.
Unfinished then?
So yeah, I have unfinished and I have new.
Okay, so let's just finish and then we'll go to the new. Okay, or unless
you want to do unfinished first? Yeah, that's what I was going to ask.
Let's do that first. And then everybody does that, then we move to the next.
Because it always says new or unfinished, and then I never know if you want to do new or unfinished.
No, it says unfinished.
Okay, we'll start with unfinished. So I guess the first conversation I want to raise is regarding the one thing I mentioned earlier, which is the noise monitoring. And I understand, so this will be obviously through to Chris. And I know, Chris, that maybe you're just picking up some of this and you might not be able to answer everything. But we're looking back, and this is a long-standing, right? We go back all the way till 2023, and I believe actually 2022 was when we started to receive complaints incoming, and then we got more robustly into the process in 23. We have quite an amount of money sitting in budget, which was waiting because we don't know. We had 50,000 on reports and 120 on potential solutions, and it was structured that way because there was all these unknowns about what kind of expenditure, like, are we buying new machines? Are we buying new, right? So we've got all this outstanding. We had the approval to place them back in the water. That came in 2023, I think, or no, yeah, 2023. And then during the 24 season, we were going to be doing some updates. So I believe I've gone back through all of our minutes for quite all the way back to 22. And I think, if I'm not mistaken, our last update comes in May of 24. And that was, that said that Brad Laking had provided a history with respect to installation of the water movers and advised that the purpose of the report was to address public concerns and so on. And then the final motion, PW 4224, was that the commission approved a pilot project to run the water movers with noise abatement trials. I don't know. I cannot find any information. What's happened is, in the interim, we received numerous verbal reports, meaning I can't go back and see where are we. I don't know what happened with those trials, and I don't know what next steps are. I don't know what your anticipation is as we roll into spring.
So we just recently, as recent as Friday, previous Friday, had a meeting with the engineers in this regard. We had supplied pump information to the engineer pump specialist. He's been in contact with the pump company that built and designed these water movers. And they are now just regurgitating that information they got from the pump supplier to be able to provide us with a trial that we will try this spring, moving forward into the season of the canals this year. So that's where we're at with our hope. That's the last meeting we had, was just as recently as Friday, and they've had conversations with the pump specialists, and then we just need to determine which trial and error method we're going to start with and go from there.
Thank you. And when they go in, do you have an idea how long each trial is going to last? Because you obviously recognize the concern is we're going to spend another season with water not moving back there at this point, right? Because we haven't progressed over the last year so much yet. So what kind are they saying? Like, is it a 2-week trial? Is it a 4-week trial? Per different trial? Are there 5 trials, 3 trials? Like, can we just get some information on what this actually looks like? Because residents are going to be bringing their concerns very quickly on this one.
Okay, so if I may back up just a little bit. So we have 2 water movers. One water mover passed all of the sound abatement studies that were commenced. So we have actually one that is not in any form of violation at all. So my suggestion would be that if the commission wishes to make this move forward, that one goes in the water right away and gets hooked up and starts moving water in that back canal with one. Because we are in compliance with that one, 100%, we can put that in the water and we can get that one turned on and we can get that one moving. Then that way we do introduce some water movement to the back canal there. The other one, we do not have a plan in place, and I think depending on the trial method we decide, will depend on the time frame for the trial. I think if we decide that we're going to try and install some rubber mounts between the pump and the frame of the housing, that would be something that would go into the water. I would suggest we run it for a period of maybe a week, but I would rely on the engineers on their professional opinion for that regard. And then we take some sound readings and have them evaluated then at that point. The thing we would probably have to figure out is, while we're waiting for those results to come back, what would the commission like to do? Do we turn it on, field the complaints, do the readings, leave it on till we get the results, and then make our determination after that? Or put it in, turn it on, take our readings, shut it off, remove it, or shut it off and leave it, and then wait till our readings come in and make that determination? That's something I think logistically we're going to have to figure out within the commission as to what the wishes are there.
Thank you. I guess to that, what I would say is, I understand that one's not in violation, but if we look back over the discussions, there were 2 different conversations, right? One was, what happens if it's not in violation, but it's still not satisfactory to the residents who are close by? So I think I agree. There's quite a bit of discussion that needs to happen. I don't know how do we want to proceed today necessarily with the discussion, because there's going to be other things. So for example, if we said to you, sure, put it in and do the test and keep it running, the next question that's going to come back, because this has also been part of the discussions the entire time, is, do we run it at night or do we run it in the day? How many hours per day do we run it? And so on. So There's actually quite a bit of discussion that is going to need to be had as this moves forward. I don't know maybe what everybody else is thinking. I think right now my first thought would be, or my first question, next question, do you think that by our next meeting, you would have a better idea what the plan is for the trial, which once we know that, it might help us frame the other questions?
I can certainly, I'm at the mercy of the engineers, obviously, but I can certainly repeatedly reach out to them and see and make some determinations as to what the plans and what the steps are going to be. I can assure you that since Friday, I've already sent one email off to them in this regard, looking for a bit of an update, because I do know that we are moving into the spring season, and I do know that the expectation is that we're going to do something. And to be quite honest with you, I personally would like to get them back in the water and get them working. If the commission is interested in having this conversation, I can make some suggestions and see what the commission wants. I just don't know if today that is the conversation we want to have, or we want to schedule this for the next meeting and have those conversations and go from there.
I mean, I think for me, having a bit more information coming back next week. Today, really, I wanted to kind of just get a sense of where are we in this moment in time. I don't know what the rest of the commission thinks or what the chair thinks, but I do think maybe this is a conversation for next meeting where maybe hopefully you've got some more information or at least some structure around your recommendations. Like, how do you think we best proceed? If we're going to put one in, when do you want to run it based on all the feedback we heard last year? So yeah, definitely, in my opinion, I'd be motioning for a staff report on this to come back with your recommendations next month, which, fingers crossed, includes some information from the engineers. That's where I'm sitting.
Well, I agree. Like, I think there has to be discussion on this because if I remember correctly, not last year, the year before, since we didn't use the hydro, that we had major issues with both of them. People were complaining, and I know one of them was under the I guess the sound allowable, but people were still complaining about them. And I would have to imagine, if we're going to get one quiet and we do something with that one, should we not do something with the other one too, or do the same thing to that one? So I'm not too sure what you're planning on doing with the one that you're trying to make quieter. Would it be just as easy to do both of them at the same time, or do one, test it, make sure it works, and then we do the other one? Because we did, I don't think, yeah, Councillor Bell, were you here when we were having those issues? I think with all the noise, like both of them were loud, right? We had complaints coming from both of them.
Yeah, and I think that was Cal. When I go back through all the different discussions, there was definitely a discussion, and you'll recall we still have some residents active right now who were quite involved, and there were meetings between Infrastructure Director Kavanaugh and things like that, where those residents kind of the end result was that even if we learned that one or two of the machines were within the allowable, did that necessarily mean we weren't going to modify? So you're exactly right. We still need to consider maybe it's within the allowable, but is that palatable and acceptable to the residents who live nearby? So I agree, there's still quite a bit of discussion that's left outstanding, and that is definitely part of it.
Right.
Yeah.
Cal, if I may, I do believe I recall a conversation after Brad Laking's presentation that we were going to do the trial and errors on the one that was in contravention right now of the allowable, rather than using money to trial and error 2 units and find out something didn't work on both units. I think we were going to trial and error on the one that was in contravention of the nighttime only allowable amount of noise emission. To find out what was going to work the best, rather than trying to go pulling both out of the water at the same time, doing the upgrades to both. It was more of a challenge to do 2 than it was going to be to do 1, and then figure out on the one which method we're going to be successful with.
So we did no tests or didn't meet with engineers last year. I think that was why we didn't put them in the water. We were waiting, right?
They were not in the water last year at all, period.
So what did we didn't do anything with them last year then? We just didn't.
No, because we had Brad Laking put his presentation forward and forgive me, I don't remember the date, but I believe Councillor Bell indicated it was sometime in May. And then we were working on, they were working on some noise abatement possibilities, and then we run into the fall and then the winter, and here we are now.
Okay, and so you're looking, as you said, we're at the mercy of the engineers.
Right. So they have their pump specialist involved trying to mitigate this noise. It's just not a simple process to try, and because we don't know where the noise is coming from and how it's being amplified yet. That's the difficulty. We know there's noise, we just don't know where it's coming from or where it's amplified from yet. So I'm really hoping that the next conversation I have with them, that the gentleman that's looking after the pump specialist side of it has had that conversation to find out whether we're in the right working load zone of the pumps or not, and that might be just as simple as creating a little bit of load on the pump to eliminate some of the vibration and the noise.
Okay, sooner the better. I'm not going to interrupt you. I'll go back to Councillor Bell.
Thank you. So I guess then my question to you, Chris, is do you think you'll be able to bring us a little bit of a report? I'm not going to motion for something that you can't achieve. So if you think that there's a report you can bring us that gives us a little bit of recommendation next month, cool. Or do you want me to leave it open-ended that you'll bring a report once you've heard from the engineer and we can make a motion that way?
I think I'd like to be optimistically speaking and say I'll be able to come back in the April meeting with a report from the engineer, or at least a report on some recommendations. At very least, maybe I can come forward with a report in the April meeting with a suggestion that I may have to move forward and at least get started on this with the one water mover at this point.
Okay, so then I'm going to make a motion that staff return with a report related to noise abatement status and solutions at the April, I don't know the date, meeting. So that'll be my motion. I don't know what date we meet in April. Pulling my calendar up here.
April's fine, Councillor Bell.
Thank you, Jennifer. Thank you. So yeah, for the April meeting. So that's my motion. If there's a seconder on that one.
The motion was seconded by Commissioner Mason. All in favor? That's passed.
Okay, so my next one, I'm sorry, I have to scroll through because what I've done is I've gone back and looked at all our unfinished, and some of it I feel it's appropriate to bring now, some I don't. So I'm kind of scrolling as we're talking. Okay, so the next one is going to be, it was PW 2224, and actually we had added the recurring infrastructure update to our agenda, which is the place that Chris would be able to provide us with the report, and then it did drop off this agenda. So we had motioned and approved for that. So I'm just going to ask that. So this isn't a motion, but I'm just going to ask that infrastructure update be returned back to the agenda as a recurring item of information, and that's where Chris would then be able to provide us with that monthly report.
I'm sorry. Let me just talk to the clerk, Jennifer.
Thank you, Commissioner Johnson. It was not included on this agenda because there was going to be no update from infrastructure. He had nothing to submit.
Okay, thank you.
You're muted now, you know that?
Yeah, sorry, because I was scrolling. I'm trying not to talk out loud while I scroll. So we had a report that on land ownership and financial responsibilities, which was PW 3224. I'm not asking that we update this right now. I am, for commission's benefit and all of us collectively as we're moving forward with the roles and responsibilities, just recognizing that that is not a report that was returned back to us. And that's fine because it probably leaned into some of what we don't know. So it would have been very difficult for someone to bring us that report. So on this one, it's merely a comment for our general knowledge that this also too is an outstanding report and a piece of what we're trying to achieve with the roles and responsibilities. A secondary boom was discussed under also back in April of 24. Now on that conversation, I know I did check in with Cal on it, and we both have two different things that we remember about booms, and there are two different conversations. So I'm going to look to you, maybe Chris, if you can. So what I really don't know right now is, did we ever end up purchasing and installing a second boom. The other thing is the one boom was damaged, I believe, or it had come undone, or I don't recall the details. And this is the boom, obviously, that goes in behind the Muse, where the drain comes in. And so I guess right now what we're wanting to make sure is just on this one, do we know where we are with the boom, and when will it be installed, and is there one or are there two, or just where are we with it?
Okay, absolutely. Yeah, no, familiar with the booms, absolutely. So two booms were installed all last summer. The tertiary style one that was implemented during the dredging that went on in the lagoon, and then the other one was reinstalled after the season, much like we do every spring. We install the floating one as well. So there is currently two booms there. Currently there's two booms there because we left it in the fall. We will assess the current the condition of those booms once the ice is out and we get the boats in and we start in the canals. And there will be booms there again this year. So.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. It's melting like crazy.
So can I ask a question? The booms are out of the water now, right?
I believe actually they stayed in the fall there, Cal, just for runoff purposes and everything else. We tried to capture as much as we could with the floating one that's there. I believe if I'm mistaken, then I'm mistaken, but I believe they were left there for the winter for runoff in the fall and stuff.
So I guess the discussion Sherry and I had. So the boom was put in for the dredging.
Yes, there was one boom.
There was one far end that you put in.
No, they were both at the entranceway from that little river creek that comes down into the canal system there and behind the Muse. They were both there and both worked this year. And from my opinion, they held back some of the algae and the duckweed coming down that back little river. So.
Okay, and one question or two actually on the boom. I think the boom was replaced because it was damaged, so the boat went over top of it. That's when I think we replaced one. So my question is, do you have a spare boom? Because more than likely, this next boom, when the winter's finished with it, it'll probably be useless. So, do we have a spare boom? You always wanted.
Yes. Yeah, for to answer that question, we do have a spare boom to put in place, and I'm actually I was of the understanding and asked this very same question. We typically get a couple of years out of the one that's always been there anyway. So yes, we do have a spare one in play, and I'm optimistic that we're not going to have to replace the existing one this year. But if we have to, we have one and we are prepared.
Okay, good, because we definitely need it there. As soon as that water starts running, we need something there because everything will just straight into that back with it. Perfect. Okay, thanks.
Okay, so then the next one is also coming from that same time period, and there have been updates to it since, so it's a bit of a longer one. So for an ongoing couple of years, there's been discussion about the trees on the North Footbridge. And the determination, of course, had been some of them would be dealt with when the bridge was done because they were in the way and overhanging the water. So that was an easy one. But along both sides of the bridge, there's been, over the last 2 years, trees broken and falling down. They've damaged the fence, actually, on the one side of the pathway. And then, of course, there's just debris in the pathway that we end up having to clean up ultimately. As well, there has been concern because it's just really dark trying to cross those bridges. That will come back under lights as well. But for now, from the tree perspective, it was left at one point that infrastructure had met with an arborist. The arborist had felt that we could only trim up so high. A lot of those cedars are dead. And so when you do start to trim them, they fall down. So that's going to be its own thing. But I guess I have sort of two. So that's the first piece is that we had the North Footbridge. Now, in general, there had been the notion of tree planting. So back when I was first assigned to LSRCA, I opened up a conversation on tree planting, and I was pleased to learn not that long back at council, we actually successfully achieved that project, and Josh had brought it here to us. So we know that there is a tree planting program going to be in place. And I guess my two questions then are, number one, I don't know where we ended up with tree trimming along the North Footbridge pathway. And so and I know we have money in the budget. I just don't know where we are with it. And then number two, we had the tree plan. And I remember when I asked the question, it was said to me, well, if somebody wants to know, they can look online. But actually what the residents specifically in Paradise were asking for was an opportunity to engage on that tree planting. Greg's shaking his head because we understand that it's going to be native tree planting and it's going to be recommended by LSRCA. But the group down there, they're really fond of the trees on their beach and they really want to be part of the conversation. So on the whole tree thing, I just kind of want to get where are we and how and when can we engage with Paradise and not just sort of say to them, oh, go look online, but an actual engagement that maybe walks around and talks about here are the locations, here are the trees we're thinking go in this location, right? If you know that right now, and if not, then I'll motion for a staff report to come back with in April.
Fair enough. I don't know where we're at with that. I know that the tree planting thing is, I believe, a big picture township wide, or bigger picture township wide. I believe it's outside of Lagoon City as well. I do believe I remember conversations that it is LSRCA that is spearheading this. And I believe that it is tree saplings that are being planted on their recommendation as per the area. I don't know whether I think it would be up to them about the engagement with the staff at the end of Paradise. I'm not sure that would be a township sanctioned thing. I kind of think that would be the LSRCA's piece because this is their tree planting program, I believe. I very little information on the program, the plan, the process, where it's at. But hopefully, moving forward with the future directors, we can get that information and come forward with it. If I can do some investigation and bring something forward in April meeting, I certainly will. I just don't know where that stands right now. I'll do my very best to bring something forward in April. If nothing else, it just maybe an information piece as to we're still working on where it's at. So.
Okay, thank you. So, and that answers the beach or the new trees. As far as North Footbridge, did we ever complete any trimming and cleaning up over there of those trees? Or I don't know. I've been over there and I know some still need to be done, but I just don't know was some done or not done. And I'm just getting my battery, but I'm still listening.
Right, outside of what had happened during the North Footbridge repairs, I don't believe there's been any additional done to anything that was there. I think anything that would have been done would just been in conjunction with the North Footbridge repairs that had happened. I'd have to refer to the budget to find out if there's tree trimming budget this year line for anywhere in there. There is some fence work that is budgeted for in that area, and obviously if there's trees on the fence, then we would have to identify that at the time and look at costing to deal with those at that time. But I would have to refer back to the budget line to see if there's even tree trimming, and if there is, then we could venture down that road, and I could have some arborists or the infrastructure department could have some arborists show up or come in and make an assessment and give us a quotation on trimming trees in that area.
Okay.
Okay, did anybody add to that?
Just like to ask Chris, who's going to map out where any new trees are going to be planted? Do you know?
I can't answer that, Commissioner Shoesmith, because I'm unfamiliar with the plan. I do believe, sorry, Dad, I saw the CAO's hand up as well, and I see Jen signaling there too.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I do believe that Lake Simcoe did come up with a plan in conjunction with our infrastructure staff, and I do believe that we have some plans. I'm 99% sure that we do have some tree planting plans, and I can work with Chris to locate those for the next meeting.
Okay.
Thank you.
And can we have any input as a community where those trees will go, or is who makes that decision?
I think that would have to be a conversation with Lake Simcoe.
Okay.
Sorry, I didn't plug it in fast enough. Apologies, guys. I ran for it. It didn't give me a warning. So I missed that last minute there.
We adjourned, leaving now.
Sorry.
Just kidding.
Oh, you adjourned me? I ran and I was running and it was like it got me no warning and then it just gone. So I think I just heard you say we need to work with LSSJ. So I think where I was at was I was just going to place the motion that I don't think we need an arborist for North Footbridge. My understanding is that was the last update that we had gotten from infrastructure before Mr. Kavanaugh left us. So I think because he had said we can only trim up so far, but what I don't know is I don't know what we ended up doing. And you're right, Chris, the fence is going to impact because some of those trees are dead. So I guess I guess then when is the fence coming? Maybe that'll kind of clean up the tree part on the North Footbridge. Is that scheduled for the spring then?
So the fence piece will come after the snow leaves, and I'm able to get in there and make an assessment and make a determination as to what our fencing needs, and then I'll bring it back to the commission with my findings at that time and any suggestions that I make. I know that there's only a set amount of money there for fencing this year, and we have to probably work within that. So I'll make an assessment of those fences and the condition of the grounds and all of that other stuff there, and then come back with a recommendation after the snow leaves, and I've had an opportunity to review all that. I won't commit to a date right now at this point because there's lots of work ahead of us. So, but I will definitely make an assessment, and I'll make a recommendation coming forward in regards to what that fencing project should look like for 2025.
There's just only one section that's not fenced. The other three are already fenced. So there's only the one section, and then there's one section that I believe is damaged from the trees falling on it. So anyway, okay, so that's the fence.
Yeah.
So I guess the only motion I'll make then, so we know that's going to be related to the fence, so we can leave the North Footbridge. But I guess the motion I'm going to make then is that that we receive a report back on the LSRCA tree planting program, just what it looks like, when it's going to happen. I don't mind, or somebody else on the commission, I'm sure Greg would love to interact with LSRCA. So I'll just make a motion that we get a report back on the LSRCA tree planting program so that we can develop an engagement plan moving forward. And I think we might even need volunteers actually to do the planting. So if we can just get a report back on it, that would be helpful. So I'll put the motion out there that we get a report back on tree planting on Lagoon City's beaches, parks, I guess.
Put that out. Who's seconding it? Commissioner Schussman. You've got that, Jen?
Yep.
All in favor? Pass.
The next thing was beautification. So last year we had done the Clean Flow, our house on Laguna, and I know you finished that one off, new door and all that kind of thing. I don't recall what we determined was going to be our beautification for this year. Signs for the Clean Flow houses are a separate budget item. There's, I think, $2,000 assigned, or 25 maybe. I don't have it open. But beautification in general, the way I understood that we left it was that it was based on your recommendation, Chris, what we would do next. So I'm not sure if we've actually been recommended yet for this year.
No, we haven't, because we haven't kind of been stalled here a little bit. So no recommendations have come forward. I do know that that is a list that we determined we were going to leave live, and it could be added to or subtracted from at any point in time. So if there are any suggestions from the commission in 2026, that would be, or sorry, 2025, that would be fantastic if I had that, because then I know your wishes as well as just maybe what my thoughts are. I will add a thought to it currently right now, maybe for the commission to consider, is the no wake signs that we use within the canal systems. I think we could probably beautify the waterways a little bit for the boating public by maybe starting to upgrade some of those. I mean, they do float around in the canal system on a rubber tire and a steel rim, and I don't know, as being good stewards, if that's the best plan of attack, when there are proper no wake buoys that we could be getting our hands on and purchasing and stuff with that beautification money, and creating some proper anchors rather than what is currently being used of cinder blocks holding them to the base of the canals. When they break free, those cinder blocks stay at the base of the canal, and they're not accessible anymore. So that's a suggestion that I have to move forward with on beautification, and that could use our beautification budget this year if we decide to make those upgrades, and then we could move forward with that. But that's just a suggestion I have right now. I haven't added it to the list. I could certainly add it to the list and bring the list back to the next commission and meeting, and we could have that discussion then as well.
Thank you. That'll be my motion. I like that suggestion, because I know I had to, just from a resident perspective, the one here broke free numerous times. And it's also a bit of you guys have to go put them back every single time. And that seems crazy. So I guess that would be my motion, is can you please bring the list, update the list, and bring it back for discussion at the April meeting?
Would you like my recommendation on that report as well?
Thank you very much. Yes, that's awesome.
When you bring back that report, could you give us some idea of what the new ones look like? Because I agree the tire doesn't look the best, but they have to be designed that the boats can run over them, because that seems to be what happens when we get a really nice one. And it's not compact, it's fragile. It won't last a season at all.
I can certainly make a suggestion as to what those no wake sign slash what I would refer to as a buoy now at this point in time, because they almost look like a navigation buoy, and they're white and they're orange, and they say no wake on them. I'm sure you've seen them around when you boat around. I'm sure you've seen what they look like. So I'll include a photo of one in my report.
I'm assuming there's different types, but absolutely get rid of the tires if we can. They don't look good at all. I don't think it's good floating tires in water, right?
Right. We may have to start the season with them though, because we'll have to order and get some stuff in place, but we can update accordingly as we get them in stock. So anyways, I'll bring that report back forward next meeting with a suggestion and a photo. So
thank you, Chris. Commissioner Shoesmith, one thing before you just talk, the deputy mayor had to leave us at 12 noon.
Yeah. I just wanted to ask Chris, there's a number of signs in behind the building on the South Beach. Are they garbage? Can they be brought back to life?
So those are the signs that we currently use in the waterways, Commissioner Shoesmith.
There were
We
some
went
signs
through the
not
motion
used.
last.
Yeah, there was a number of
We went
signs
through the
that
motion
haven't
last
been
year,
utilized.
and yeah, so we went through the motion last year and cleaned that site up and actually disposed of all of the ones that weren't being used. Anything you see there now currently or in the fall prior to snowfall are the ones that are currently using throughout the lagoon
Okay, fair enough.
system. So
Sure. Okay, thanks.
Okay, so the next one.
Are we doing new business yet, or?
Nope, I went through the entire year. So because we have numerous unfinished pieces, and so working through now is unfinished.
So you're cleaning them all up now. That's what you're doing. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I don't think, and then I do want to point out for one, just quick second, Chris, please don't think that this is like me saying, oh, come on, man, bring it next month. It obviously it's a lot of stuff, and I have no crazy lofty expectations, and I don't want to take all your time. So if you need to say, no, that can't be till May or June, or I'm not pressing you at all whatsoever, or I'm just throwing out the things.
We're almost there. We're almost
there. I know,
there,
I figured we're going to be getting, so I don't want to.
There's a lot of stuff that's going on right now. So
we had.
How many more do you have, Councilor Bell? How many?
I'm in April. So I don't know, unless I
Can any of these be pushed to next month's meeting, Councilor Bell? Just they should be on an agenda.
I can, through you, Mr. Chair. Yes, I would just say that this particular sort of section of the agenda, I certainly appreciate where Councillor Bell is coming from in terms of unfinished business, but as you can, I'm sure, appreciate, a bit problematic for staff without any sort of forewarning that this was actually going to be discussed. And so Chris is very astute in terms of the business, which is fantastic, but really difficult to actually be prepared and to be ultimately ready to respond to any kind of questions without the benefit of having kind of any forewarning. That's the reason why it's very beneficial for these types of things to be on the agenda so that we can actually be prepared. And not only that, from an accountability and transparency perspective, if you have any of your residents tuning in, they don't even realize any of this is being discussed because it's not on the agenda.
Thank you, CAO. And that's you're hitting home the exact point, I suppose, is that somewhere along the way, we weren't allowed to submit agenda items. We can't access staff properly. And so this is causing, obviously, this sort of thing to happen. And it's just, evolution and, I don't know, changes in people and procedures or whatever. But as some of these items are lagging 2 and more years. And it is about accountability and transparency, and we can't answer our residents because we don't have the answers to the questions. And again, we have a number of much of last year verbal update, which is creating issues because I can't answer people literally because I can't access the information. So this is definitely not, this is a problem. So what I will do then, based on this conversation, and since we're talking about procedures as we roll through, I will put the rest of it into an email and request of the clerk that it be placed into the next agenda. And so that we can finish through all of this list, and then therefore I can move on to new. But I'm not the chair, so I'll dispense with unfinished, and I will leave it to you, Cal, to move on to new, and maybe somebody else has something before I come back in.
No, I appreciate what you've done there, but yeah, let's put it right in there and we'll send it in. It's getting a little bit late now. We've been at this for a while, so that's why I'm just trying to push it through a little bit quicker. So does
So
any,
before we move on, Chair Johnson, we did, Councillor Bell had a motion on the floor regarding the beautification project. We just need a seconder in order to finish that.
oh, sorry, I've got a seconder, I'll put, Commissioner Shoesmith. All in favor?
Okay, thank you.
And so nobody else has, does anybody else unfinished business? Because you kind of covered the two things I had for unfinished. Did you guys have anything? Okay, and now on new business, right? Before we go to you, Councilor Bell, I'm gonna ask the other two. And do you have a lot? Because,
No, I want not like that.
all right.
Quicker
okay.
ones.
Okay, do you guys have anything? No? Okay, Councilor Bell, I've only got two things, so.
Okay, well, I actually, the footbridge lighting should have been under unfinished. I'm sorry, I realized as I was getting to the end, Chris was planning to update us on footbridge lighting from the last meeting. So that probably should have been in the unfinished portion. So before I say anything, I don't know whether Chris did, if you had that update.
So just quickly, not to delay, I did some research into that. I've reached out to the contact that was being employed to look into that. I have a meeting with them tomorrow in this regard, and I will have a report back in the April meeting in regards to footbridge lighting.
Perfect, thank you. I'm sorry, I forgot about that one. Okay, so I guess on the new business, we were looking at understanding what our status quo is going to mean as we move forward. I started to address that a little bit earlier, so now we're here. One of the recommendations that we've been talking about is that we have an appointed interim communications officer for the LCPWC pending the roles and responsibilities review. So I would like to put that discussion on the floor and see if we can nominate someone to take care of our communications and also, again, excuse me, help to alleviate some of what goes through to our senior level managers who don't need to be kind of repeating themselves over and over again about what does the clean flow system do and what do the harvesters do and that sort of thing. And it used to be that it came through to the commission. So I would like to put that on the floor that we appoint somebody to field that sort of thing who would then only go to senior level management if it becomes necessary. So I'm putting that on the floor for discussion. Please, I'd like to motion.
What, can you put the motion, say the motion again, please?
That we appoint an interim LCPWC communication officer pending the roles and responsibilities review.
Okay. Somebody put it on the floor. You put it on the floor, somebody second it. Nobody's seconding it?
So we're gonna just, because I don't want to pay Ashley is what I'm getting at. So I'm looking for someone, I'm looking to put the discussion on the floor. I'll gladly nominate myself, but I'm looking to first get the discussion on the floor.
Well, I'll second it to allow it on the floor. I have to come off being a chair then? To second it? Do I have to come off the chair to second it?
No.
Oh, Amber said no, I don't think, yeah.
Okay, then I'll second it then. Because I think it should be, I think we should discuss things, right? I may not agree or disagree, but go ahead, Councilor.
Yeah, so because we've had some difficulty being able to get our commission highlights completed and updated, and Ashley does an excellent job of creating them for us, but oftentimes we'll see them, you know, here they are at 4 o'clock and then they're going to get posted tomorrow, which doesn't give the commission enough time to review them. And then I think sometimes it's just a question of being able to understand what kind of information the commission's trying to communicate. And even back with, you know, going back over the last few years, the former CAO, for example, would always say, well, if you don't explain what it is you want to have communicated, we wouldn't know how to do it because it's specific to what kind of happens within Lagoon City and what kind of information do the residents specifically look for. We're having a bit of a breakdown and being able to achieve that. And so we talked about this last meeting. Last month, there were things missing in the highlights, which were important to the residents and they need to be added. So I would recommend that we have somebody from within the commission be able to work on that. And and even if it's preparing social media announcements or whatever, we don't really need to pay for staff time. Typically, committees would create all of their items and then submit them for posting. So that system used to be able to work fairly well, and we've kind of gotten away from that. And then we're burdening staff with doing a lot of communication work for the commission that we don't need. So it's one of two suggestions. Either we appoint somebody internally to do the communications on behalf of the commission, or we just suspend commission highlights pending the roles and responsibilities review. Because right now we don't even know whether the township should be communicating on our behalf. So without that roles and responsibilities review, we really can't, we don't know where we are. So yeah, either we nominate somebody internally, or we could just suspend them until the review is complete. Those are my suggestions.
Right. So I think the appetite of the commission, from what I can see, is that to leave it as is until we do our roles of commission, right? The roles.
Then I'm going to request that we please receive the commission highlights in enough time that we can modify them, or make our request for the modifications to make sure that the information that should be in them is there, and that we have approval before they're posted.
Okay. So how often, to be honest with you, I read them, but I don't really pay too much attention on the timing. What timing are you talking about? What's the timing you're after?
So for example, the last ones were forwarded at 4 p.m. and then posted at 8:30 the next morning. So there wasn't enough time for anybody to review them. And I do use them. And if they don't have all the information, then I just write my own anyway. So it seems to me that we should be able to develop a better process of being able to communicate.
Well, how much time would you like? What do you?
I mean, at least 2 days or 3 days.
So you want 48 hours or
72 hours, I think.
72 hours? Would that be a problem?
Because they don't need to be posted until a week after, right? So there's no, or even 2 weeks after. There's no.
Commissioner Johnson, the CAO has her hand up.
Oh, God, I never could see that. Okay, sorry. Oh.
No, that's okay. That's okay, Mr. Chair. It is, as I say, a problem when the camera's not working. So, if I can, through you, certainly Ms. Watson is the staff resource that we depend on to do these highlights. And so when all is said and done, she's away this week. In terms of the time frame, certainly if the commission, is it written down, I guess through you, Mr. Chair, is it actually written down in terms of when those, number one, is there a requirement for highlights? And number two, is there a timeline as to when they actually are expected to be out? I don't know the answer to that, to those two questions.
I would imagine they're not, because we've never really had this sort of thing happen before. So I don't think it is I don't recall ever seeing.
No, there was never a requirement, and there was never a timeline. There was just always, like back in the day, Ashley and I would just kind of talk back and forth, and she was always really great about giving us enough time. But I think she's become too burdened by too much, and she cannot get them done, as you know. Okay. And so either we don't, or we just don't do them.
I don't think.
Yeah, we can just not do them. We have minutes.
No, but I don't think it's a big deal to give us 3 days, right?
Well, if I can, Mr. Chair.
I got you.
Mr. Chair, the township doesn't, and I know the commission is sort of unique, and it's not a committee per se. But I will say that the only highlights that the township ultimately do would be for council. So we do council highlights. So if the commission wanted to forego doing those highlights, your agendas and your minutes are certainly indicative of what was ultimately decided. So you certainly could forego those highlights if that is the choice of the commission.
All right. And that's what I'm not sure what the other guys are thinking, but that's what you're after, Councillor Bell, right?
Yeah, I think it just, because we're just adding a burden, and I don't think it's necessary. And then it's just a lot of time to be going back and forth. And yeah, the minutes and I'm not saying forever, but I do think we should just make a suspension pending the whole roles and responsibilities review. And then at that time, we can figure out what kind of communications needs do we have and what do we want to do, right?
All right, let's do that. If you guys are, Commissioner Mason, Commissioner Shoesmith, do you have any input on this? Or?
Well, no, not specific. I just think, yeah, maybe a few days' notice would be just more convenient for people. But you know, the minutes are available to anyone that wants them. So it looked like extra work, unless somebody wants to take on that extra work. It seemed like extra work for the sake of extra work.
Well, I know I'm not taking on something like that. I'm not good at doing something like that.
I agree. I don't see the need of it. We have our minutes, we have our agenda. Doesn't seem that there's any real need for updates. And if none of the other committees do them, and the only one that does it is the council, I think that we're wasting time and effort. And if there's something important that needs to be published, I know that Sherry posts all sorts of things on social media. If there's something critical or something important, I'm sure that that's the best way to get the information out.
Okay, so my motion, my motion will just be that we suspend the creation of the commission highlights. I don't want to say kill because it might come back, so I'll just say suspend.
Sure.
Seconder, Commissioner Mason. We've already discussed it. All in favor? That's passed.
The next one is just about agenda preparation. And I know this again has just happened because of burden of work, right? And but we're not getting our agendas early enough in this, you know, yesterday, getting it today, there was an awful lot of vouchers and things. So can we please just pick a time? I'm going to recommend 4:30 p.m. on the Monday before the Thursday meeting, which gives us a couple days to review and hopefully doesn't put any extra burden on staff. If that's okay with the clerk, and if that doesn't seem like that's going to be a reasonable time. Yeah. Okay. So I'm going to motion then that we receive our.
Are you okay with that?
Or putting a motion.
No, hold on. You have committee meetings and council meetings on the Monday. Are you guys okay with getting it out Monday?
Yep. That's not a problem.
Oh, okay.
If I can, Mr. Chair, through you to the clerk, what does the procedure bylaw stipulate? Because we must follow the procedure bylaw. So let's just make sure that we understand what that actually indicates in terms of when the agenda should be out.
Right.
It doesn't.
It's
Yeah,
2.13 doesn't specify a timeline.
Yeah, that's been part of the problem, I think, too, is there was no procedure.
Okay, so what we're doing is asking to have it out on Monday.
Yeah, 4:30 Monday before the meeting.
So that's the motion, if there's a seconder.
The seconder is Commissioner Schussman. Any discussion? We've already talked about it. All in favor? That's passed.
Okay, then the next one is because we're pending.
I thought it's like the hand up, but no.
Sorry, that because we're pending our roles and responsibilities review, we don't have any definition on the role of commissioner and that sort of thing. We actually don't even have an appointing bylaw at this point in time. So I feel that it would be prudent to not make any changes to the commission on the anniversary date of June 30 this year, which would have been William's appointment. And I'm just going to suggest that while we're going through this transition and time of change, it would maybe make sense for us to suspend or the reappointing pending the roles and responsibilities review, and just keep the commission the way it is as we navigate this process. Yeah, so my motion is that we suspend the June 30 appointment pending roles and responsibilities.
I'm pretty sure I would have saw CEO's hands on that one, because are we supposed to follow a procedure like when we do some change something like that?
Well, there is no appointing procedure, so we don't have an appointing bylaw.
Jennifer?
You're appointed via motion, are you not, Councillor Bell? And
We have no bylaw, but we have no bylaw. So
right, you're appointed though through a council motion. So,
but that's not a bylaw or a procedure, so that's the issue. So I guess what we can do is request that council, because council can't be doing it either because there is no bylaw that permits them to do it. There's no bylaw that permits them, and there's no bylaw that permits us. So I guess maybe the motion we have to make is that we request council to suspend the June 30 appointing pending the roles and responsibilities review. That would be more sensible. You're right.
I think staff need to investigate, Councillor Bell, if this is possible prior to making a motion. I don't think we have. I don't think we can make an informed decision.
Yes, because I guess, yeah. So unless you can find the appointing bylaw, which apparently we don't have. So if we have it, that's obviously going to help clarify this. But
yes,
our procedure that we've been using is contrary to the Mayor Act.
Right.
So
That's why I think we
that's
need to
where-
do a little bit of research into this.
Right.
Yeah,
why don't
okay, so
we get research?
so we've got time till June, so why don't
Yeah.
we just say, yeah, that you'll come back with a report on whether or what is our
Whether we
appointing
can
law?
suspend, yes.
Yeah, okay, perfect. So I'll put that motion out if anybody could second that one.
Yeah, I'll get Commissioner Shoesmith will second it.
And
And I know I'm just in discussion. I'm just trying to decide whether, well, Williams being here, I guess it doesn't matter. Okay, all in favor? That's passed. Are you done?
yeah, the only, yeah, I guess I can leave it. I don't know where we are with Weeds Be Gone right now. That was supposed to come in unfinished, but then I stopped partway through, so I lost my train. And I mean, I guess what I just don't know is turning on the clean flow system. I just want to confirm, I guess, that we're going to use the process that we kind of used in the past, which was when ice starts to go out, we can't snowmobile now. So actually, we could literally turn them on any minute, really. So I guess I'm just wondering what procedure we're going to use.
Well,
Absolutely.
sorry, Chris, I was actually going to ask that question.
Okay.
Tied into something else too, right? So, but go ahead, Chris, because I think I know the answer to it.
Yeah, so it's on my radar already. I am waiting for ice out to and access to all of the clean flow sheds. That's probably a little more daunting than anything else currently this year is the access to those sheds at this point. But I am monitoring. It is on my radar, and as soon as I can access the buildings and the waterways free up a little bit of ice, I don't want to create any false sense of any air under any existing ice. So I do want to make sure that we've got open water long before I turn them on. I don't want to give anybody any false hope for any reason at all to think that there's nothing going on underneath those waterways. So I will be waiting for some open water to appear in the areas, and then I will turn them on, and then I will check them all like I do every other year for the startup operation. So.
Okay. The only thing, now that's kind of what you followed. I just wanted to ask you, do you have a to-do list for the parks and waterways? I know Josh has been working on it. Do you have something like that you can look at that we have to do every year, every fall, that sort of thing?
So at this point in time, it's muscle memory. It's the same thing over and over and over again. A to-do list in writing doesn't exist. I mean, there's procedures that we do every year, and we start off with ice out with clean flow systems on, and then we get the boats ready and so on and so forth, and we get the pontoon boat in, and all of that stuff typically starts happening in May. So. The clean flow system might be prior to May, depending on ice out, but the pontoon boat and then those other things start happening in May when we start moving forward. So,
well, the reason I asked, what worries me is I know we'd had issues before, and like the boom not being put in, it was just forgotten, right? And that's what I thought we've got a to-do list going so that somebody could always follow it. There would never be a problem, but there is nothing there. So maybe it is something. Somebody's got their hand up. I'll go ahead, Councillor.
Thank you, Cal. I just was going to say, again, kind of with muddiness of things, Councillor or Commissioner Points did create a manual, which we have. And I guess my question, Chris, is do you have that manual? Because he's already put quite a lot of work into it. And I think that might be a good starting point for continuity as well, right? Which is why he did it. It was supposed to help every year as we got new commission members, new staff members. And so if you don't have it, I'll happily pull that document back up and I'll come to you and bring it to you, and we can go back and forth with working on it if you like, or however you want to proceed. But we certainly have the beginning of what I think is an excellent manual that would help control all these annual.
Yeah, I'll review whatever you have. I have my standard work plan that I work within anyways, in regards to township assignments and stuff. So, by all means, share whatever you want with me, and we can certainly have conversation and discuss it. But yeah, I currently have a work plan that I work within, and all of my own to-do lists as I move through my regular work weeks here within the municipality. So,
I'd forgotten that Bob had done all that. Yeah, you're right. Okay, so if you would I don't know if I have to put or somebody has to put a motion forward to make sure that we get that book and we add to it and we keep it going. So it's like always, it's always being added to.
That's just standard bookwork, is it not, Chris?
Yeah, so
update your-
I've not reviewed the book that they're talking about, Clerk Connor at all. But yeah, it's just my standard work practice that I have in my daily routine and my daily my weekly tasks that I follow through with all of this stuff, including all the LCBW stuff. It all falls into suit with that. So
And that's like hiring employees, certificates, all that fun stuff, right?
yeah, like arranging the training and everything else for the staff this year. I mean, that's already done, right? So
Okay, certificates. Okay, perfect. I just wanted to follow up on it because I've been involved in it for 10 years, and for the longest time we had to do all of that ourselves, and it gradually has left us now. And I just want to, hopefully get it done, right? But perfect. It sounds like you're right on
well,
top. Thank you.
I would leave it with this thought at this point in time, Cal. If the commission is not in favor of what I'm doing or has any not necessarily directions, but complaints maybe in the process that I'm doing it or something is getting missed, I mean, by all means, bring it to our attention. We have the report of concern program as well online that you guys can use as well. And if there is something that I have missed that you think is not completed, by all means, that stuff comes directly to me anyway. So I can certainly react when I have to.
I have no complaints at all. I was just going over that because I'm kind of a little anal with these sort of things, right? That I like to stay on top of it. So, Councillor Bell.
Thank you. Actually, that raised a question for me, which I did want to ask ages back. And I'm glad that Chris said that because it sparked it for me. When we had a solicitor come in and give council advice, the advice to council was that you would never submit a service ticket on behalf of a resident. And so what we've ended up with at Parks and Waterways over time and over discussions over a few years was like, if you were out and about and, for example, I saw the tree that had fallen on the fence, we ended up with this scenario where instead of us just, using a different kind of process, we did use report of concern. And then I would go in, and I wasn't being a council member, I was just being a resident saying, hey, a tree fell on a fence. So I guess now that there was advice from a legal advice saying that council members shouldn't do it, maybe to the clerk, I don't know, should commission actually, because we would do it and we would just say that it was coming from LCPWC. If it was a commission related thing. So I don't know, what process do you think we would be best to use? Should we do it as report of concern, or should we email you as our clerk? Or I just want to make sure I don't want to get in trouble, I guess.
I think the report of concern tool is your best option.
Okay. So, and then, and say it's LCPWC and not personal, like, okay. That's all I want to know. Thank you very much for that confirmation.
That way we can track them.
Yeah, that's good. Yeah. Does anybody else have anything else on new business? No. So we've gone through our motions. Just a question before I get to the closed session. Has anything changed here since because it's the updates. I got 10.1, 10.2, 10.3, right?
That's correct.
Okay, perfect. Okay, so if nobody has anything to
Sorry, I have a question about closed session. I'm not sure why the update 10.3 would be in closed session.
Well, it doesn't matter. I'm going to say an open session anyways. It's okay. You can ask that next time. All right. So does anybody have anything in 10.1? Because if nobody has anything in 10.1 and 10.2, we don't need to go into a closed session. Right. So unless you have something, we can, if you're okay with it, we can vote on it. It's just that we can't discuss it. So if we go into closed sessions and nobody has anything to discuss, then we're wasting our time. So, and then I don't see anybody has any. And on 10.3, it's really quite simple. I have got a lawyer and I'm working on it, but I haven't been able to have a Zoom and talk to the lawyer. So it'll be more in the next meeting for me. That's where I am at. We've gone through 3 and I'm working with John. Okay. And that's about all I really got to say. That I don't think I need to go into a closed session to say that. All right. So what I got to do is I got to do close. So on 10.1, do I do each one individually now?
Yeah, 10.1, you need a mover and a seconder.
Yeah, on 10.1, I got a mover. That would be somebody. The Commissioner Mason, second by Commissioner Shoesmith. All in favor? That's all. 10.2, closed session minutes of meeting held on March 3rd, 2025. I need a mover. Commissioner Shoesmith, second by Commissioner Mason. All in favor? Done. And the update from Commissioner Johnson regarding seeking solicitor for the Lagoon City Parks and Waterways Commission. You heard that for the mover. Councillor Bell, second by Commissioner Smith. All in favor? Wow, that was the easiest closed session I've been in a long time.
We need more of those.
Yeah. Okay, the adjournments. Recommendation is that the Lagoon City Parks and Waterways Commission adjourn at 12:39. Somebody put on the floor. Commissioner Shoesmith, second by Commissioner Mason. All in favor? All right. Thank you, guys. Thanks, staff. Great job. Really appreciate it.